हे भगवान ईश्वर अल्लाह तेरे नाम सबको सम्मति दे भगवान रघुपति राघव राजा राम।
आज बाबरी मस्जिद को नहीं तोड़ा बल्कि हिंदुस्तान के मुसलमानों के दिल को तोड़ा है। हिंदुस्तान का सेकुलरिज्म ऐसा लगता है कि खत्म हो चुका।
Who is in charge of law and order in Uttar Pradesh? Who is in charge of stopping the yatra? Am I in charge? Is the Home Minister of India in charge? Why don't you ask yourself that question?
तीनों प्रादेशिक सरकारों को भंग करने की गलती मत करो, इसके गंभीर नतीजे होंगे। सारे देश में इसका आपको मुकाबला करना पड़ेगा। शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से हम लड़ेंगे और हम जनता के बल पर लड़ेंगे, कानून के बल पर नहीं।
Hello and welcome to Eyewitness. Only rarely in our lives do we witness an event that you can safely say will change the history of our nation. But what happened in Ayodhya on December 6th is surely such a development. And so, in this specially extended edition of Eyewitness, we devote the whole cassette to understanding what the future will be like for India after Ayodhya. And because Sharmila cannot be with us for this show, we have instead Komal GB Singh.
In this cassette, we provide the most comprehensive coverage and analysis of the incident at Ayodhya. And the cassette is divided into several distinct parts, so you can, if you want, see it in sections or at one go. Here now is what you can expect.
We reveal what really happened at Ayodhya with exclusive footage never before seen, and examine the response of the security forces with admissions that will shake you. We explore the mood of Indian Muslims as they recover from the trauma and discover the reaction of the rest of us and find answers that are surprising. In his first interview, the Prime Minister tells us his side of the story. We examine the prospects that lie ahead for the BJP as it adjusts to the new politics and talk to Atal Bihari Vajpayee about the crisis that's become a dilemma in his life. We present the first ever poll of Congress MPs on what they think of Narasimha Rao, whilst in studio, 4 top politicians discuss the future of India. We begin with the details of what actually happened in Ayodhya on December 6th. Seema Chishti and the Eyewitness crew were there. They braved the wrath of the Karsevaks as the mood switched from defiance to frenzy and then madness. So now, with their own telling footage and with the help of additional material offered by eyewitness contacts, we pieced together what happened during those critical hours that stunned the nation.
This is the Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid complex. Here is the Babri Masjid. In front is the platform constructed last July. Opposite is the Manas Bhavan, the highest point in the area. To the left is the Ram Katha Kunj, some 300 meters from the mosque. On the right of our map is a building used as an observation tower by the authorities. Under it are the rope barricades meant to control the crowds. Our account begins at 7:45 on the 6th. The Babri Masjid was surrounded by early morning mist and a row of CRPF Jawans. It was evocative of preparations for a school sports day. RSS Sanchalaks had taken over the management completely, doing their drills and supervising the cleaning of the platform where the car seva was to happen. Even durries were laid out. By 9, the numbers near the platform increased considerably, with a lot of women joining the crowd. Sadhus and Mahants were also struggling to occupy the limited space. Soon the platform was packed, with even Ramchandra Paramhans, Mahant Ayodhya and Swami Parmanand having difficulty finding space. By 9:30, the confusion near the rope barricades was getting worse, and hundreds of car sevaks threatened the police cordon. However, the RSS Sanchalaks appeared to cooperate with the police, and the situation still seemed under control. Just before 10:30, Advani and Joshi arrived, escorted by Katiyar and Singhal. They circled the area before being taken to the Ramkatha Kunj, trailed by hundreds of supporters. This was the point when the crowd seemed to go out of control. There was tension all around, and our team was warned to stop shooting. But when we asked the district magistrate if things were out of control, he merely chuckled.
Why not? Is it so? Yes. You don't see
Breaking a barricade.
No, there are a lot of enthusiasm in the people.
A situation can be created. Will you be able to control it?
It's under control still.
It is?
Yes, it is under control.
Yet the police had already begun pleading helplessness.
जनता पुलिस क्या कर पाएगी? हम कितनों को गोली मारेंगे यहाँ पर? यहाँ देख रहे हैं ना? इनका सहयोग, सबका सहयोग होना अनिवार्य है यहाँ पर. हम सभी का सहयोग बहुत जरूरी है यहाँ पे. अगर हम ऐसा नहीं करते हैं तो बहुत सारे आदमी हैं, हम कंट्रोल कैसे कर पाएंगे?
In fact, this is all that the police felt was necessary for them to do.
तो यहाँ भी नहीं इधर तो पूरे आएंगे. हाँ, यहाँ से लगाओ. पूरे वहाँ से ऐसे करके खड़े हो जाओ, बेत लगाए. एक दूसरे का बेत पकड़ लो. हाँ, लाओ बेत पकड़ो. किनारे तक.
About 11:45, a group of conspicuous men with yellow bands on their foreheads ran in a single file towards the besieged policemen. Five minutes later, Singhal reappeared and confusion ensued as he first seemed to go up on the platform and then retreat. He vainly tried to address some car sevaks before departing. So just before midday, this was the situation at the site. Some CRPF personnel were inside the complex, the UP police were near the barricades, and a lot of the press was on top of Manas Bhavan. The leaders were on the Ramkatha Kunj, addressing thousands of people alongside them. The rest of the complex was swarming with car sevaks. Our camera was here on the platform. The serious trouble started at 11:55 when stones were hurled at the masjid. Both the UP police and the CRPF vanished. What followed was a massive and sudden movement into the masjid, and I could see the car sevaks make their way straight to the top with no resistance at all from the security forces. This is what followed. It was at this point that the eyewitness team was attacked by the car sevaks, who were in no mood to allow the demolition to be filmed. However, eyewitnesses obtained exclusive footage that allows us to show you what happened for the next 30 minutes. Notice how the announcements on the public address system have changed. Listen to what they are now saying. At 12:15, this pink canopy that covers the Ramlala idols was carried out, followed shortly by the idols themselves. For the next 6 hours, the entire place seemed like a gladiatorial arena, with car sevaks either charging inside to assist Operation Demolition or howling and clapping with glee. The first dome collapsed at about 2 o'clock. The second dome fell at 3:30. At this time, I could see Vinay Katiyar and Ramchandra Paramhans on top of the Ramkatha Kunj, giving a cricket-like commentary and egging people on. The third and final dome fell at 4:55 to loud cheers. By 6 o'clock when we left the site, whilst homes in Ayodhya had been razed to the ground.
जब मारना शुरू हुआ, इसके बाद हम लोग अंदर है गुम्बद पर सब कांसे वाले चढ़ गए तोड़ फोड़ करने लगे। हम लोग राम लाला करके ले करके बाहर खड़ा रहे। इसके बाद जब गुम्बद गिर गया तो राम लाला को लेकर हम लोग ऊपर आए। इसके बाद पंडाल में सब हम उठारे। इसके बाद अपन शाम को आते होते पूजा वूजा करने शुरू किए।
मैंने पहले सुना था कि यहाँ भगवान राम की वानर सेना
थी पहले, तो मैंने प्रत्यक्ष देखा कि बराबर भगवान राम की वानर सेना जहाँ पर आई हुई है। और उस समय जब ये 12 बजे लगभग शुरू हुआ और 12:30 बजे मैं दूर से देख रहा था और फिर मेरी आंखों में अश्रु भी बह आए।
And while the demolition was going on, what were Advani and Joshi up to? I did not see them, but here is someone who did.
Well, after some time, Mr. Advani went downstairs and just sat silently right through the evening. Once or twice when he did came up, he just kept repeating it was unfortunate. But Mr. Joshi was absolutely silent. When asked, he said, no questions, no answers, excuse me today. But the other leaders, well, people like Ashok Singhal were frankly speaking fairly jubilant about what was going on.
In fact, the shocking events of December 6 continued well after the masjid was demolished, late into the night. Once again, from the exclusive footage Eyewitness has obtained, we can show you what happened after dark. The police hung around watching the makeshift mandir being built. This was well after Kalyan Singh had resigned, and it continued even after President's rule was declared. Here you can see them warming their hands by the fire. Even the lights which could have been switched off by the authorities weren't. In fact, our footage shows work continuing up till midnight without let or hindrance. So far, I've told you what actually transpired. But like many others, there was a lot I simply was not permitted to see. But even so, one important question arises about what happened.
The 3 domes were leveled within 5 hours. Though passions were running high and the crowds uncontrollable, it was obviously premeditated by some people. The question now is, who exactly masterminded the whole show?
There is ample evidence to suggest planning. First, there is the swiftness and simultaneity of the operations. This suggests strategy rather than spontaneity. In just 5 hours, the domes were smashed, the press hit in order to ensure no coverage, and Muslim houses burnt to the ground. Secondly, the RSS Sanchalaks, who started out as policemen, ended up as poachers. We actually filmed one Sanchalak performing both roles. Here at 11, you see him performing police-like functions. And less than an hour later, he's conducting the demolition. Thirdly, there is the way the public address system began instigating the mob. Whoever was in charge was encouraging and not restraining. And when we got back and looked at our tapes, we discovered what people had been saying an hour before the demolition began. At that time, it seemed like rhetoric. Now, in retrospect, it's another sign that it was premeditated.
थोड़ी का है कि ढांचा टूटेगा, काट सेवा होगी सर।
और 1 बजे के बाद सभी कार सेवक अंदर घुस जाएंगे मंदिर के अंदर, अभी अंदर। और क्या, ये सब अभी पूजन होगा, उसके बाद सब अंदर घुसेगा।
Most damning of all is this conversation recorded on the 8th with a VHP member who unwittingly gave the game away when he admitted to the rehearsals that were held to demolish the masjid.
अभ्यास हमारा 5 दिन पहले से चल रहा था 800 कार सेवकों का, जिसमें हर प्रांत के लोग थे।
क्या लक्ष्य था अभ्यास का?
लक्ष्य का अभ्यास करने लक्ष्य हमारा यही था कि जो पिछली बार घटना हमारे साथ हुई 30 और 2 को, वो घटना केवल लोगों की मृत्यु हो करके ना हो जाए। भीड़ अगर अनियंत्रित हो जाती है तो उस दिशा में हम अपने आखिरी लक्ष्य को प्राप्त करेंगे।
आखिरी लक्ष्य क्या था आपका?
आखिरी लक्ष्य हमारा था ढांचे का ढाना।
He also told us the significance of the men in yellow vans one had seen running on the site at 11:45 a.m. They were the leaders of the car sevaks and their arrival a planned signal.
10 कार सेवकों पर एक कार सेवक प्रमुख था, जिसको हम गढ़ शिक्षक का नाम देते हैं, और प्रमुख का पीली पट्टी था और शेष कार सेवकों का काली पट्टी था। हमारा नारा था जय शेषा अवतार।
And in the end, if you really need more evidence to convince you it was all planned, just listen with hindsight to what Vinay Katiyar and Ashok Singhal were actually saying days before the demolition. At the time, it was mistaken for bravado, but as it turned out, it was the truth. It's just that no one wanted to believe it.
कार सेवा का अर्थ ये है, ये बात साफ है, पक्का निर्माण। मैं समझता हूँ कि सांकेतिक तो होने वाली नहीं। अभी तक कितना सारा वहाँ सफाई की गई, संतरीकरण किया गया, मंदिर प्रस्तावित जो बनने वाला है उसका प्लेटफॉर्म तैयार कर दिया गया, अब उसी पर पिलर्स खड़े किए जाएंगे, सारा काम होगा, इसलिए निराश होने का कोई कारण नहीं।
नॉनसेंस। देखिए, हमारा कोर्ट से कोई मतलब नहीं है। आप कोर्ट की बात क्यों बीच में ला रहे हैं? आप हमने कहा है कोर्ट का जो जहाँ पर निर्णय आने वाला है वो हमसे उससे अप्रभावित है।
If only we had heard these warnings and reacted earlier, it's not just that the masjid would have survived, but India would have been saved the dreadful trauma that followed. Whenever history's verdict comes, it will be unremitting.
One of the most important questions that arises out of the December 6th incident is what were the security forces doing? The Eyewitness team captured on film some telling moments which revealed their helplessness and even their unwillingness to act. But perhaps the most shocking is what the CRPF commandant admitted on camera to Seema Chishti.
The attitude of the security forces became apparent almost as soon as the trouble began. They just disappeared, almost like magicians, who one moment can be seen and the next turn into thin air. But it was on the 7th, when the rioting started, that the police failure became laughingly apparent. They simply stood and watched whilst utter lawlessness prevailed.
I went to see if I could get a newspaper, and there were no English papers, but everybody was trying to get papers, and everyone had papers, and they were standing around reading the papers. So I was photographing everybody reading the newspapers, and people started chasing me. And the police walked by and watched. And I was like running, the people were running after me, and then like an old man walking by stepped in and said, "Stop it." And I was saying, "Don't worry, I'm leaving town." And they were saying, "Go, go." And the police didn't stop them. Some old man had to stop them.
Much the same happened if you asked the police for information. We first went to the CRPF commandant in Faizabad to find out about the status in Ayodhya. Faizabad is only 10 kilometers from Ayodhya, but he pleaded ignorance.
We have taken over the situation only last evening. Ayodhya, I don't know about Ayodhya. There is a lot of rush coming the people.
He refused to even tell us if the CRPF was in Ayodhya.
उसके अंदर CRP नहीं है.
Other police officials were no better. At the Faizabad Kotwali, we asked if there would be police protection for the press. Given that there wasn't any the day before, it was probably a silly question. But this was their reply.
You're not providing protection. We have got better jobs to do.
You've got better jobs to do. Can you give me one instance?
We've got to stop what's going on there.
Are you being able to stop it? Are you trying?
As I said, no comments again.
We demanded to see the commanding officer at the Kotwali in the belief that a more senior official would give a more responsible reply.
The district magistrate and the SSP who will take decision about giving protection to the policeman.
What about the breakage and things that is happening on the way? What about the breakage and things that is happening on the way? Who is accountable for that?
उसके लिए तो हम लोग देख रहे हैं। अभी अभी आप लोग एक दिखा रहे हैं, वहाँ तमाम फोर्स लगे हुई हैं। अब
फोर्स लगी हुई है, तो देख रही है, फोर्स देख रही है जी। एक से एक अफवाह उड़ रही है कि होटल में आ जाएंगे, वो कर देंगे, ये कर देंगे। उसका कुछ हल निकालिए ना आप लोग।
हम उन जगहों पर पूरे रोड साइड पर फोर्स लगा रहे हैं अभी। अगर जिन जिन जगह पर नहीं है हम लोग लगाएंगे, फोर्स लगा रहे हैं अभी।
But the most telling revelation came to us almost by accident when a CISF Jawan told us on the 8th why his force had not defended the Babri Masjid.
सब हम लोग अर्धपिन के खड़ा है, कोई सेंट्रल से ऑर्डर, दिल्ली से ऑर्डर नहीं मिलता, हम लोग नहीं आ पा रहे।
इसलिए हमने देखा कि सीआरपी चली गई प्लेटून।
हाँ, हम लोग रात को वापस गया, फिर हम लोग दिन सुबह 6 बजे से 6 तारीख सुबह 8 बजे से डेस्ला के पूरा दिन रात को फिर रात को वापस फिर ले गया हम लोग को। ऑर्डर नहीं मिलता है।
तो अगर आप लोग होते पूरे फोर्स में तो आप
15,000 पूरा जो था तो पूरा कंट्रोल कर सकता था पहले से,
बिना किसी खून खराबा के।
कंट्रोल आराम से कर सकते।
क्या करते आप लोग? टियर गैस करते, लाठीचार्ज,
सब कुछ कर सकते थे हम लोग।
रबर बुलेट्स,
सब
तैयारी थी यहाँ पे
पूरा, सब कुछ तैयार था, किंतु गवर्नमेंट से कुछ ऑर्डर नहीं है।
And to our utter astonishment, when we met the DIG of the CRPF, P.N. Ramakrishnan, he not only confirmed the Jawan's opinion, but went a lot further.
Had you wanted to control the operation, 6th had you got orders to go ahead and stop the demolition, would you have been able to do it without bloodshed?
Oh, definitely. Bloodshed would not have been necessary.
So it was possible to save the mosque?
Yeah, we could have. We had adequate strength, we had a clear plan, we could have done it.
What would you have used, I mean, if not force?
Yes, we could have used force, but that force would not have been as serious as a casualty. I mean, without resorting to firing and killing people, without crippling them, we could have used the force, we could have used a prolonged force, we would have had a pitched battle, but we would have pushed the people out of the area, out of the damage being done. That would have been quite possible.
It was within your preparations and plans.
It was not at all difficult. We could have done it.
So if they could have prevented the demolition of the masjid without a single loss of life, why didn't they? After all, as a senior minister later confirmed from his own footage, at no point were there more than 5,000 odd car sevaks in the actual 2.77 acres or the masjid. Tear gas or water cannon could have easily cleared this rabble. Yet, they were not used. Why? The nation awaits an answer. Until then, many will wonder whether security was the task entrusted to the forces on that fateful day.
And there we take our first break. But after that, the reaction of the man on the street as Eyewitness finds out what you think, and the mood of the Muslim community as it takes stock of the new situation.
Come, discover the exciting world of ITC, where hybrid seeds born of research bring golden harvests, where pure edible oils flow in plenty into every home, where high-quality paper and paperboard surround you with magic, where new ideas in packaging and printing fulfill consumer needs, where gracious hotels welcome all with warmth and hospitality, where the excellence of traditional and modern India cross the 7 seas. ITC, new horizons, new hopes.
साइकिल के रखवाले हर संताले, आपकी हर जरूरत के लिए हर संताले।
Welcome back. There's been a lot of speculation about what exactly the Indian people feel about the fast-moving chain of events from the demolition of the masjid to the dismissal of the BJP governments. After all, their reactions will be the first factor to determine what happens next. So Eyewitness correspondents spoke to hundreds of people to find out. Here, compiled by Ravi Shankar, are their answers. We cannot claim that they represent the country as a whole or that people are not hiding their real views. But this is an accurately representative selection of the responses we received.
लेकिन ये सोचते हैं कि एक मस्जिद को गिराना उससे बड़ा कोई गुनाह नहीं है, क्योंकि ईश्वर और अल्लाह एक ही होता है।
तोड़ना इस तरह से तो शायद ठीक नहीं था, मगर होना था ये एक बार, तो हो गया अब तो।
Well, of course, it was a right thing. Well, according to me, yeah, I think it's a right thing to, of course, demolish the mosque.
हमारी तरफ से तो बेकार हुआ है। अरे जो लोग कत्ले हो रहे हैं बेकार नहीं समझेंगे।
It was totally wrong. That's not the way. I mean, this is not the way politics should play actually. And I don't like it.
मस्जिद को तोड़ करके हमने राम के आदर्शों को ठेस पहुंचाई है।
मस्जिद का तोड़ना ठीक था, इस विषय में तो मैं ये कहूँगा कि बिल्कुल ठीक था, क्योंकि बाबर बाद में आया था और रामचंद्र जी जो थे, श्री रामचंद्र जी, वही पहले आए थे।
एक जगह से सही भी है, मंदिर वो जो मस्जिद तोड़ी गई है वो सही भी है, एक जगह से गलत भी है, क्योंकि इससे हमारी काम में बहुत फर्क पड़ा। हम तो रोज़ कमाने खाने वाले, हर जगह जहाँ से भी माल लाते हैं, जहाँ भी जाते हैं वहाँ कर्फ्यू लगा दिए गए, रोड बंद कर दिए गए, हमें आने जाने में परेशानी होती है।
Whatever it is going on, it is altogether wrong. Whether it is a masjid demolished, you people, or either the mandir is demolished, we don't believe in this thing. We want peace all the time.
This cannot be expected in a civilized country to break something just like this.
It's a national necessity.
That should have been done.
Yes, it should have been done long ago.
What's the use of fighting for a mosque or a temple? We are a secular state. Everyone should keep that in mind.
These are producing terrorists. It is as good as giving an advertisement in a newspaper, wanted terrorist.
Masjid was a historical monument, and no historical monument should be destroyed. By destroying masjid, you cannot obliterate the fact that India has been conquered by Muslims.
I find what happened was absolutely right. And even the archaeologists say that there has been a mandir before a masjid. And recently also they saw that एक tomb के ऊपर मीर बाकी 1528 लिखा था. When they broke that stone and they turned it, there were चौपाइयाँ from Ramayana.
ना उनको हमारे तोड़ने चाहिए, ना हमें उनके तोड़ने चाहिए. ये भी देखिए ना आप के
what history says? What history says?
मेरी बात सुनिए, हिस्ट्री को आप देंगे तो कुछ नहीं होगा. हिस्ट्री का कुछ नहीं है, हो सकता है शायद ना हो. ये तो कागजों के अंदर है ना, वैसे तो किसी ने नहीं देखा, ना आपने देखा ना मैंने देखा।
नहीं ऐसे तो you have not seen even Ram, they have not seen Allah, then this is a separate question. That's right. Then why argue on this?
That's right.
I think it's really shameful for all Indians, not only Hindus, for the act they have done.
अगर आप ये कहें कि 1.5 लाख लोगों ने वहाँ मस्जिद तोड़ दी, तो पूरे हमारे जो पूरी इंडिया के अंदर इस वक्त अप्रॉक्सीमेटली 70 करोड़ तक हिंदू होगा, तो उसके चलते 1.5 करोड़ के चलते हम 70 करोड़ का नाक कटा हुआ नहीं मान सकते। तो ये स्टेप जो था एक बेवकूफ़ी भरा स्टेप था कि वहाँ इकट्ठा करके भीड़ को उकसा दिया गया कि उस चीज़ को तोड़ दो।
हिंदुओं का नाम तो ऊंचा है और ऊंचा रहेगा। जब हिंदुस्तान में भगवान के घर में भगवान कोई जगह नहीं है, अयोध्या में राम कोई घर में जगह नहीं है, तो फिर हिंदुओं के रहने का फायदा क्या है?
पूरे हिंदुओं का भी सिर शर्म से झुक गया है।
Do you think this has done proud to the Hindu religion as such?
Yes. I feel ashamed that I'm a Hindu.
हम लोग हिंदू हैं, हम लोगों ने हाथ में चूड़ियां नहीं पहन रखी हैं।
बिल्कुल झूठ, आवाज दे, झूठ बोलते हैं, शर्म आनी चाहिए। नहीं आपको शर्म आनी चाहिए। You are political because you are journalist.
देखिए मुझे बताया गया है कि
Do you think the BJP has been discredited by this?
Definitely.
क्या समझते हैं बीजेपी की भी नाक कटी है सर?
अब बीजेपी इसमें भाग ले रही तो नाक तो कटेगी। भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने एक काम यही अच्छा किया है, जो कि उसने हिंदुओं को एकत्रित किया है। उनके अंदर कुछ हिंदूवादी भावनाएं जो हैं वो भरी हैं। ये तो हिंदू तो बेकार हो गया था एक तरह से।
Do you think the BJP has got discredited by what has happened?
You can say 50% yes they have. इसमें जरूर बीजेपी को धक्का पहुंचा, और न सिर्फ बीजेपी को, कांग्रेस को भी धक्का पहुंचा है।
बीजेपी का नाम नहीं होगा, बहुत अच्छा किया है।
देखो बीजेपी ने जो भी किया बहुत ही अच्छा किया है ये करके।
All these things are indicate that the government is on a suicidal course. I regard the decision to rebuild the mosque.
तो अडवाणी, मुरली, जो मनोहर जोशी इन लोगों को अरेस्ट किया है, ये सही हुआ क्या?
ये सही है, उनकी सेफ्टी है इससे।
ये तो बस एक पॉलिटिकल दबाव डालने के लिए, सबको दिखाने के लिए, आईवाश करने के लिए हम ये एक्शन लेने जा रहे हैं इनके अगेंस्ट में। इसलिए ये सब काम इन्होंने किया। अडवाणी को अरेस्ट किया और भी अरेस्ट किए हैं। क्रिमिनल केस फाइल करना, ना ही कोई ऐसा बड़ा क्रिमिनल केस इन लोगों के अगेंस्ट में बनता है।
गलत किया है, अरेस्ट नहीं होना, क्योंकि वो इतने 4-5 लाख आदमी वहाँ थे। इतनी भीड़ को कंट्रोल करना माने लगता है। एक अडवाणी कहने से क्या कार सेवक छोड़ देंगे मुझे?
Yeah, I think they should be taken to trial. You know, they have ignited the whole country, the whole nation. They are responsible for this. They should take the moral responsibility for this thing.
Everybody thought that it was being done under their leadership. So the best thing was to, for the time being, to bring situation under control. And that was not a wrong step, but as long as it is on a short-term basis.
They will become the heroes in the eyes of many people. That is true.
जो बीजेपी के कुछ सरकार बर्खास्त कर दिए गए हैं, जैसे हिमाचल प्रदेश, राजस्थान और जगह में, वो सही हुआ?
हाँ, किसी हद तक, क्योंकि मिस्टर अडवाणी साहब जब से इसमें आए हैं अपोजिट पार्टी में, तब से बस ये दंगे ही दंगे हो रहे हैं। और ये सिर्फ मेहरबानी भारतीय जनता पार्टी वालों की।
कांग्रेस आई ने अपने पैरों पे खुद कुल्हाड़ी मारी है। ऐसा करके इसको बीजेपी को ही बेनिफिट हुआ है। उनकी सरकार बेशक गिरी है, लेकिन उन्हीं को बेनिफिट हुआ है और आगे इलेक्शन में इसका पता लग जाएगा।
पर बीजेपी के गवर्नमेंट्स को जो डिसमिस किया गया है, दैट इज डेफिनेटली नॉट इन आवर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। वो बिल्कुल नहीं होना चाहिए था। ये गवर्नमेंट ने बहुत गलत स्टेप उठाया है।
अभी जो बीजेपी के सरकार बर्खास्त किए गए हैं, ये सही हुआ है?
ये भी बिल्कुल सही हुआ है। गवर्नमेंट जो कर रही है बिल्कुल ठीक कर रही है।
इलीगल एंड रॉन्ग स्टेप ऑफ द कांग्रेस गवर्नमेंट।
Why do you exactly think it's illegal and a wrong step?
Because they are shown their partiality. Number of casualties in the ruling party states are much more than these people's.
It should not have been done, because now it's more of a war between 2-3 political parties. Then the major issue has got sidelined, you know.
There can be no doubt that the community most directly affected by the demolition of the Babri Masjid is India's 120 million Muslims. And if we are to continue as a secular and united nation, we must strive to understand their feelings and heal their pain. Seema Chishti reports on the mood of UP Muslims as they start to adjust to a new chapter in India's history.
कुछ भी नहीं रहेंगे, हम लोग क्या करने जाएंगे वहाँ? हम लोगों ने सब लूट लिया, जान भी ले ली। वहीं रहेंगे। फिर आए उन लोग कहने लगे तुम लोग निकलती हो कि नहीं? फिर हम लोग कहाँ जाए? हम लोग सब लोग आग लगा रहे हैं। फिर सब मिट्टी का तेल छोड़ने लगे, छोड़ के सब लगाने लगे आग। फिर सब लोग मगरिब का टाइम हो गया। फिर हम लोग कहे अब क्या करें, तो बाहर गए तो देखे लड़का का हमारे चूड़ी भोग के चले गए। चूड़ी निकाला और अपने मियाँ को सब बताया अपने हाथों से। बहुत जांच से किए हम लोग के साथ। जो कुछ बचा फिर सुबह आके सब जला दिए। उनकी लाश को फिर जलाया। बहुत जांच से कर दी हम लोग के साथ।
उसके बाद इन लोगों का घर थाने, जन्मभूमि थाने के सामने पड़ता है। उसमें सब आग लगाते हुए हमारा घर थाने के जरा सा दक्षिण पड़ता है, लगा हुआ है एकदम। तो 2-3 गोल मतलब कुछ हेल्प उन लोगों के मोहल्ले वालों ने किया और 2 बार अटैक हमारे घर पे किया। हमारी दुकान मतलब घर में दुकान है, 2 पोर्शन में है। उसके बाद उसके दरवाजे को तोड़ डाला, जला जाना। हमारा बड़का
Tahira's husband and Aslam's sons were victims of the orgy of violence that engulfed Ayodhya after the Babri Masjid was destroyed. In fact, that evening, houses were burnt to the ground. Though the deaths in themselves were tragic, the real tragedy lies deeper. Because perhaps for the first time in recent history, Ayodhya witnessed real communal trouble. Previously, despite being in the eye of the Mandir Masjid storm, its residents were immune to communal venom. In fact, they hated their futures being decided by outsiders. This time, things were different.
अब की जो इनके कार सेवक आए हुए हैं, इनमें ना तो कोई किसी कंट्रोलिंग पावर है, जो नेता इनके साथ हैं उनके आउट ऑफ कंट्रोल हो चुकी है। कब ये क्या कहाँ कर सकते हैं, क्या कर रहे हैं, कोई इनको ना कोई संभालने वाला है, ना ये खुद संभाल पा रहे हैं। सवाल इस बात का है, इसलिए यहाँ की जो जनता है, चाहे वो हिंदू हो या मुसलमान, वो अपने आप को असुरक्षित महसूस कर रही है। इससे हम क्या कह सकते हैं भाई कि हम रहेंगे या जाएंगे, क्या करेंगे, इस तो कुछ कहा नहीं जा सकता है।
But looking back, what made things different was the way neighbors behaved. In the past, in Muslim eyes, communalism was tempered by the ethos of the neighborhood. The people next door were always there to help you, but not on December the 6th.
लेकिन मोहल्ले वाले से इतना इत्मीनान था कि वो लोग कुछ नहीं करेंगे, लेकिन एंड टाइम पे ऐसा किया कि देखा भी नहीं जा रहा था आँख से। बल्कि हम लोग उस टाइम भी बोले कि आप लोग तो इतना साथ, मतलब इतना ऐसे कर रहे थे पहले से, और आज जिस तरह हम लोग को सता रहे हैं, क्या फ़ायदा। तो हंसने लगे सब मिलके।
हम लोग मोहल्ले वाले के साथ कुछ भी नहीं करते थे, न कभी बच्चे लोग से लड़ाई न झगड़ा, और सब हमको लोग को इत्मीनान था इन लोग कुछ नहीं करेंगे। लेकिन वही मोहल्ले वाले सामने खटिक हैं, उन्हीं के हम उनको देखा अपने आँखी से। कहा भी बाबू, दाढ़ी में हाथ भी लगाया, बाबू हम तुम लोग के साथ क्या किया था जो हमको ऐसे आप लोग कर रहे हैं।
As a result, horror at the turn of events was widespread. It was not just the loss of a masjid. There were two other reactions. First, there was the emergence of a new gulf between the two communities.
जैसे जो हम लोगों के आपसी टर्म्स थे, उसमें भी गिराव आ गया है। जैसे हम एक दूसरे से मिलते जुलते थे, बहुत मतलब पता नहीं चलता था कि फैजाबाद में इस किस्म की धार्मिक चीज़ें हैं, लेकिन आज जो है इससे काफ़ी असरात पड़े हैं इस बाबरी मस्जिद के गिर जाने से, क्योंकि इनके ऐसे ऐसे किस्म के नारे जहाँ पर लगाए गए हैं, समझे, उससे मुस्लिम तो जागेगा।
But perhaps even more importantly, the Muslims we met were embittered by what they perceived to be the central government's role in the affair. The BJP's anti-Muslim stance is a fact most have come to accept. What came as a shock was the centre's complicity.
कि हम जिस महल्ले में रहते हैं उसकी खबर मुझको रहती है, या उस महल्ले का कोई बड़ा शख्स उसको खबर रहती। इतने बड़े मुल्क का वज़ीर आज़म और उसको खबर नहीं है 10 घंटे तक वहाँ साहब, और अगर खबर नहीं तो आपकी इतनी बड़ी इंटेलिजेंस है, उसको कहा है सबको डिसमिस कीजिए, ख़त्म कीजिए।
दोनों हुकूमतों की साजिश से मस्जिद ढाई गई, इसमें कोई शुबा नहीं।
और ये सबसे बड़ा हाथ जो है ये सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का है। अगर उनको मालूम था कि मस्जिद शहीद होती है और 24 घंटे वो कुछ नहीं कर सके, और जबकि राष्ट्रपति शासन लग चुका फिर भी कुछ नहीं किया उन्होंने, इसमें राव का सबसे बड़ा हाथ है। हम तो ये कहेंगे कल्याण सिंह तो कम इसमें इन्वॉल्व है, सबसे ज़्यादा राव इन्वॉल्व है।
But if you explore deeper, there is something more serious behind such allegations. It's not just a loss of confidence in the government of the day, but also a questioning of the Indian state's commitment to secularism. Though few Muslims believe it's completely finished, in many eyes, the commitment is now in doubt.
बहुत बुरा हुआ। एक तो ये है कि हिंदुस्तान के अंदर हिंदुस्तान जो एक सेकुलरिज्म मुल्क है, उसके अंदर किसी भी इबादत गाह को तोड़ने का किसी को हक नहीं है, ठीक है जी। और दूसरी बात ये है कि जो हमारे हिंदुस्तान के कानून की धज्जियाँ उड़ गई हैं।
ये कतई भरोसा नहीं है कि जमहूरियत का, जब हमारा मजहबी नहीं रह जा रहा है, कोई चीज नहीं तो हमारा क्या है।
हिंदुस्तान में रह क्या गया, हिंदुस्तान में कोई
अब हम तो यही चाहेंगे कि ये हमको हमारा हक दें और ये अपने अलग हों।
And what adds to such Muslim doubts about secularism is their perception of the role of the security forces. Today, they feel they cannot trust the so-called guardians of the law to protect them.
कार सेवक नहीं मारे, हमको पीएससी ने मारा।
पीएससी
बहुत मारा।
कार सेवक नहीं, लेकिन
कार सेवक नहीं मार पाए।
तो कार सेवक घेरे थे ना,
घेरे हुए थे लेकिन वो मार नहीं पाए, जबकि पीएससी वालों ने सिर्फ मारा है।
मैं एक चीज़ ये मोटी जानते हैं साहब, इसके अलावा तो एक जाहिल आदमी है, इतना जानते हैं यहाँ जो भी आया वहाँ से, दिल्ली सरकार से भी जो फोर्स आई, समझ रहे हैं आप, और जो यहाँ की फोर्स है, ये सब एक आपस में रहे।
But as you wander through Muslim UP, it's not anger and resentment that you find, so much as cynicism and tiredness. Muslims are drained and weary. The experience has taken its toll, and Muslims are hesitant to come out openly on the subject. A lot of them even regard their own opinions as hardly of consequence.
अब ठेस तो पहुंचेगा ही, लेकिन ठेस के अलावा इसमें करेंगे भी क्या हम?
हुआ तो वो जो हो गया तो उसके लिए अब क्या करें, वो तो हुआ वैसे गलत हुआ।
ऐसे बहुत कुछ है पर हैं?
तफसील से बताइए किस किस तरह से?
अरे बाबरी मस्जिद बोलिए।
किसकी वजह से हुआ ये?
भाई इसको तो हमको नहीं मालूम कि किसके वजह से हुआ।
In a sense, it's resignation, and there can be many reasons for this. First, perhaps the logic of numbers has been driven home by the car sevak's show of strength.
और ख़ास तौर से तो अपने यहाँ फैज़ाबाद में तो बहरहाल हम लोग तो एक इस तरह से कैद खाने में जिससे बंद इस तरह से हैं, रखते हुए बोल नहीं सकते कि कलेजा है लेकिन हम बोल नहीं सकते, बोलते हैं तो आप 10 हैं हम तन्हा, हम क्या करेंगे? वही मैं डर के मारे नहीं बोल सकता, तो जब मैं डर ही रहा हूँ तो दूसरा बोलेगा क्या? आमतौर से आप हमको देख ही रहे हैं कि ये फला आदमी डरपोक है, ये बोलेगा नहीं तो हम क्या उसको कहें? अरे हम किसी के सामने कुछ अपने बने तो वो मेरे ऊपर हावी हो।
अपने धर्म का जो चीज टूटी तो दुख पैदा हो गया करी हर आदमी के यहाँ,
लेकिन हो गया जो हो गया उसमें सबको इत्तेफाक करके रहना चाहिए। हर कोई कहीं हम एक जगह रह रहे हैं, है ना?
But in addition, there is also a practical dimension to the problem. The community remains very backward and now acutely aware of it. Being a minority, and a minority with a large underclass at that, doesn't add to its confidence.
और ये सब गरीब आवाम है, इनके एक सुबह में अगर कमाने वाला चला नहीं जाए तो पूरे घर के अंदर में कोई रोटी पकाने वाला नहीं। ये रोजाना ताज़ा कुआं खोद के ताज़ा पानी पीने वालों में से हैं और बहुत ही ज़्यादा निचोड़े हुए हैं।
ये तारीख गवाह है कि अयोध्या का मुसलमान ये साबित कर दिया कि इस्लामी जो तारीख़ात हैं वो उसमें ये बाब लिखा जाएगा कि मुसलमान कमज़ोर नहीं है वक्त के साथ चल नहीं पा रहा, लेकिन इंशाअल्लाह ताला हम मजबूर हैं, कमज़ोर नहीं हैं।
So though today the situation may appear quiet, it is in fact an uneasy truce that prevails between the two communities. And now it's not just an urban problem. This time, the significant feature was that tension spread to the villages. In fact, this is where the Ram Janmabhoomi movement scored. And in the process, not only have they encroached upon rural India, but also a generation born well after partition has understood at first hand what 1947 must have been like. Yet, 45 years ago, Indian Muslims may have had torn loyalties. No longer. Today, the Muslim is quite clear about where he belongs.
अरे अयोध्या में तो जीना है, मरना है, सबको नहीं करना। हमारी रहेंगे अयोध्या 7-8 पुश्त वहीं है, हम छोड़ के जाएंगे कहाँ? पाकिस्तान जाएंगे?
एक मिनट, एक ही
पाकिस्तान जाएंगे, कहाँ हमारे लिए जगह है? अरे इंडिया में रहना है।
हिंदुस्तान के नागरिक हैं, हम कहाँ जाएंगे? यहाँ पर एक मुसलमान नहीं है, पूरे हिंदुस्तान के अंदर मुसलमान।
ये तो हमारी जन्मभूमि है, यहीं पे रहना है, यहीं पे मरना है, सब कुछ यहीं पे करना है।
While that is reassuring for those who believe in a secular India, you still cannot escape the fact that at no time during the past 5 decades was India's secular fabric so badly strained. Soon the event itself may pass into history, but we still have to deal with the scars it has left behind.
क्या हो रहा है? हुकूमत क्या कर रही है हमारे लोगों के साथ? इन्नल्लाह मअस-साबिरीन अकेले साथ है। अल्लाह हमारे साथ है, मैं महफूज हूँ। कोई बात नहीं हमारे लिए घबराने की। बस पावर दो, अल्लाह ताला देगा, हमारे अंदर सब कुछ पावर है और कुछ नहीं पावर। हुकूमत का क्या पावर? हुकूमत आज पावर दे देती तो आज इसी बात न पैदा होती हमारे लोगों के अंदर। अब जाइए, अस्सलाम वालेकुम। ज़्यादा नहीं करना चाहता।
But there is a thought that can speak when words fall silent. काबा अगरचे टूटे तो क्या जाए गम है शेख, ये कसर दिल नहीं कि बनाया न जाएगा. Even if the Kaaba comes down, it can be reconstructed. But if the castle of the heart is broken, it cannot be put together again.
At this point, we take another break. But we'll be back in a moment with the Prime Minister's first interview, as Eyewitness asks him where he went wrong.
सके नी रे गा मा पा मा गा रे सा
Preserving the Guru Shishya Parampara. ITC, new horizons, new hopes.
We're looking out for mattresses. Oh yes, how's this?
Ooh, too soft. No body support.
How's this? Oh no, already sagging.
Kurlon, the choice is clear. Kurlon for comfort, for support and elegance.
Kurlon, India's largest selling mattress.
Kurlon.
स्टोव।
ये स्टोव नहीं हो सकता।
अरे ये तो स्टोव
इतना छोटा, इतना हल्का।
हाँ वही तो मैं।
और ये चलता कैसे है?
गैस पर।
क्या नाम बताया इसका?
Primus Capson Stove।
लो, बैठे रहो अंधेरे में। आप बस बैठे रहो, मैं भी आती हूँ। नाम नहीं पूछोगे?
Primus Capson's Lantern 200 watt वाला।
Welcome back. In the early days after the Ayodhya debacle, India wanted to see how the Prime Minister would act. Would he now admit his handling of the BJP had been mistaken? Did he accept his government had failed to take necessary precautions? Why had Mr. Narasimha Rao not done anything to stop the demolition between midday when it started and 5 p.m. when it was all over? And was he now a compromised man? Karan put all that and much more to the PM when he interviewed him on December the 10th. Excerpts of the interview have already featured on the BBC. Here, however, is a fuller version.
Prime Minister, in the light of everything that you now know, do you believe that the demolition of the Babri Masjid was spontaneous? Or do you have reason to believe that it was surreptitiously planned by elements of the RSS, the BJP, the Bajrang Dal, the VHP?
I have reason to believe that it was the result of planning, pre-planning.
What sort of reasons are these?
You see, putting many things together, you have to take a comprehensive view. I have tried to take that comprehensive view, taking each small bit, each small event, each small reaction, reflex of the state government and also of the leaders. Every utterance of the leaders, different voices, saying something in the court, saying exactly the opposite outside, the advantage of speaking with so many voices and getting away with everything. All this put together makes me believe that it could not be spontaneous, it could not be just on the spur of the moment, and knowing the way they articulated it this time, I am quite sure that it was pre-planned.
Let me ask you about your own government's reaction. After all, you knew that something was likely to happen in the form of Karseva for 5 weeks. Why did you not do more to prevent this happening?
What more can you do than giving the state government 192 companies of the central forces, paramilitary forces, which amount to about 11 to 12,000 armed people, asking them to make use of them because the constitution doesn't allow the forces to act on their own, asking them to make use of them. They are near at hand. In fact, it could have been done very easily if there had been any will on the part of the state government. They were in Faizabad. This was happening in Ayodhya. I mean, just within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, everything could have been controlled. So that was the situation. Not only not making use of them, but going to the Supreme Court and asking that the central forces be withdrawn, making protests, going from place to place, asking the central forces to vacate the premises they were occupying within 2 hours, giving them notices. Now, this is the kind of thing that has happened, and as a result of this, the situation went out of control. In fact, they didn't want to control it in any case. There were orders from the Chief Minister that no force should be used.
But if you, as you say, they did not want to control it in any case, they were not cooperating, why did you not dismiss them before December the 6th?
No, it is not possible because they have been telling the courts, telling the National Integration Council, telling the whole world as a government they would do it under any circumstances. This was the commitment they were giving to the whole world.
And you trusted them?
Well, the state government has to be trusted by the central government. If anyone can tell me about any other kind of relationship, or particularly a relationship of total mistrust between the state government and the central government, I would very respectfully disagree that it is not possible under a federal constitution like India.
I accept the point you're making, Prime Minister, but there is the opposite that can be said also. This is a party, the BJP, that has whipped up emotions, as you have often argued, on the basis of religion before. The state government was refusing to cooperate with you this time round, and they are the opposition. So why trust them?
No, the question is, what do you do? If you don't trust them, you cannot dismiss that government while the government is shouting from the housetops that it is prepared to discharge its constitutional responsibility. Never mind which party. The point is whether the state government as such is doing its duty or not, promising to do its duty or not, making preparations for it or not. I have done the utmost I could do by making available a very large force which could have been made use of at a moment's notice.
Prime Minister, could you not have taken action under Article 355?
No. Article 355 has never been used in the history of this constitution.
But this is a case where you could have used it.
No, there is no need because we can go straight to Article 356.
But you didn't do that either.
This is what we did. When they failed, we had to do.
Do you not now, in retrospect, think that if you had acted on the basis of 355 or 356 earlier, you might have avoided what happened?
No, I don't think we could have used 356 earlier. I am quite sure about that.
With hindsight, though, would you have preferred now to have used 355 then?
I don't want to go by hindsight at all. I would like to do what is possible, what is necessary at the moment. That is how a government works.
Do you feel, Prime Minister, that the attitude of accommodation, that the attitude of understanding that you had shown the BJP now was mistaken, or that they misled you?
I don't think it was mistaken. You see, democracy can never run on the basis of total mistrust of parties or governments. The point is, you do get into difficulties. You have to get over the difficulties, learn a few things about other parties, but even then, you see, the Constitution of India has a certain unity of its own, and you cannot act in a manner which disrupts the functioning of the Constitution. I think that is a lesson which everyone has to bear in mind. That is a principle which everyone has to bear in mind. I cannot become unprincipled and violate the Constitution because somebody else has done it. I mean, I don't think anyone can recommend that or commend that.
Your Home Minister has at least twice spoken of a contingency plan which he said he had.
Yeah, this was a contingency plan, giving them the force that they need. In case of need, they have to use it, asking them to use it, and telling them time and again, every hour, to use it.
But was there a plan which could have been activated when you realized that they were not using the force you had made available and that things were going out of control?
Well, this is what I am saying. You see, you have to go up to a point in trusting the state government. There is no way you can say that you are not going to do it, therefore, for every step I have a counter step. This kind of thing will not do. The moment our forces were sent there, the protests that came from the government of Uttar Pradesh and the BJP everywhere, including the Supreme Court, they have to be seen to understand what it was, even to send forces there.
Let's just talk a little about the forces, Prime Minister. By all newspaper accounts, the demolition began just before midday and it lasted for some 5 hours. Why was it not possible for your government to act during that time?
Yes, these hours have been noted. What happened at what time has been noted. We are coming out with a white paper on that. I will give you, that gives you all the details. But in short, I could tell you that it was known to us only after 1 o'clock. We asked them They said, we want 25 companies. 25 companies were immediately made available. Then again they said, we want 50 companies. They were also made available. In short, when they were on their way to Ayodhya, they were stopped in the middle. There were 200,000 people milling around. The magistrate said, I am under strict orders of the Chief Minister that force should not be used. Now you cannot proceed without using force, therefore I will not allow you to use force. You please go back.
So do you have the impression that the Chief Minister was saying different things to you and different things to the magistrate?
Absolutely, absolutely.
He was actually playing tricks, to coin a phrase.
Well, phraseology is yours, but I am telling you what happened.
And you're not disagreeing with the phraseology?
Well, why should I? It is your phraseology, but so long as the substance is the same.
One other thing, Prime Minister, the actual assault on the masjid proper began around midday, but your forces didn't clear it till some 16 hours later, although when they did so without loss of life. Why was that clearance,
because
that direct action not possible earlier?
The man on the spot who was in charge of the operations said that they could do it in the night, not during the day, when still 150,000 people were milling around. He waited for the night and then made the assault.
So the timing of the assault was decided by the man on the spot for strategic reasons?
Yes.
There's no political connection there
not at
whatsoever?
Not at all. In fact, we were asking him to do it all the time, but he said, no, I will have to do it only in the night, after nightfall.
Why did your government not stop the yatras that went on for a week prior, led by Mr. Advani and Dr. Joshi, when it was quite clear that they were whipping up emotions and creating tension?
In this country, we don't stop yatras just for stopping them. Mr. Murli Manohar Joshi also went on a yatra, All India Yatra. We did not stop. Everyone can go everywhere. I mean, there is no stopping this. And in fact, if we had stopped the yatras, we were not quite sure that things would not have worsened. I mean, he is a leader of stature. He is going. We think that he is going. I mean, he says he is going to control. He is also making fiery speeches. We know what is happening at the moment, at that moment. We are watching, but we cannot really stop the yatra. Have you ever seen a yatra where thousands and thousands of people are participating, being stopped? You mean a bloodbath there on that same spot? And how do we enter Uttar Pradesh? Who is in charge of law and order in Uttar Pradesh? Who is in charge of stopping the yatra? Am I in charge? Is the Home Minister of India in charge? Why don't you ask yourself that question? The yatra starts from Mathura. Mathura is in Uttar Pradesh. Law and order is the Uttar Pradesh government's job, not mine.
Why did your government not try and limit the congregation that assembled? There were some 3 lakh car sevaks by some account in Ayodhya. Could you not have limited that number?
It did not work in 1990.
But it could have been tried in 1992.
No, it could not have been tried because you cannot stop people from going anywhere. You see, you do not know what they are going to do. The point is that if there is a yatra, if there is a religious fervor, somebody wants to go and do kar seva according to the definition given by the Supreme Court. It's not as if all kar seva was banned. The Supreme Court gave the parameters of this kar seva, and they were going to do just that. That is what everybody knew about the kar seva. How do you think anybody will stop or can stop any kar seva? Kar seva was very clearly delimited by the Supreme Court. What all you want to say is, I should have done it in spite of it.
But what do you say to someone who hears you and says, he's given lots of reasons why he couldn't stop the yatras, he's given lots of reasons why he couldn't stop the congregation in Ayodhya growing to 5 lakhs, but in every case he seems to be pleading helplessness.
I am not pleading helplessness at all. I am only saying that I am under the Constitution, acting under the Constitution. The moment I was able to act under the Constitution, I acted.
One other concern that people have is, why did you arrest Mr. L.K. Advani and Dr. Joshi when a lot of people feel that this has perhaps given their party a cause to rally around?
I don't care who is rallying around whom. I am absolutely certain that the leader who is responsible for a particular act has to be proceeded against.
Do you think that the arrest of people like Mr. Advani and Dr. Joshi was an essential bridge and indication to the Muslim community that we will treat this sort of behavior seriously?
Well, it was not an indication, it was the performance of a duty. Indication is secondary because we don't arrest people just to indicate something. That's not done. Arrests are not carried out with such motivation. The motivation is, the reason is that they have to be arrested under the law. They have done something which they have to pay for in terms of legal proceedings.
How do you respond to the deep feeling of betrayal and insecurity that many Indian Muslims today feel?
I too feel the same kind of betrayal has happened, not only to them, not only to me, to the whole nation. I have all sympathy and love for them. I feel exactly as they feel, the same distress and the same anguish, but I would like to embrace them and tell them that we will face this danger together.
How do you, as Prime Minister of India, react to the demolition and destruction of Hindu temples in Pakistan and Bangladesh and the attack on Indian diplomatic property?
My reaction is the same, whether it is a Hindu temple or a Muslim mosque or any other denomination. The desecration or destruction of places of worship is a heinous crime. It should not be done anywhere, and whoever does it is really doing a great disservice to not only all religions but to mankind itself.
What about the fact that the Pakistan High Commission in Delhi has been flying its flag at half-mast? What do you say about that?
About what?
They have flown in the capital of India their flag at the High Commission in Shantipat at half-mast.
I must check on that. I must check on that.
It was done as a deliberate attempt to show sympathy with the Muslim community in India for what happened.
It doesn't have to be a half-mast.
I
mean, it is being done everywhere by Pakistan. Pakistan is heading this campaign. Everyone knows that.
Do you, as Prime Minister of India, resent the fact that they are using this politically?
Of course, I resent it. I have expressed it several times. I have made it absolutely clear that this is not on, but this is going on. This is what the unfortunate part is.
One last question, Prime Minister. You spoke about duty, but when you first came to office as Prime Minister, you defined your duty as putting India's economy back on the rails.
Yes.
And you did so by launching some of the most far-reaching economic reforms. Now it's widely believed, in the light of what's happened, they've either been shelved or they've been forgotten about or derailed. Is that so?
Well, I think none of these is true, neither derailed nor shelved nor forgotten. The only thing is, you have only one event that hits the headlines. No event hits the headlines always. I mean, today Ayodhya has hit the headlines. After a few days, it will no longer hit the headlines. We will go back to our economic program. In fact, the economic program is on. There has been no interruption whatsoever.
So all the speculation is unfounded?
Absolutely unfounded.
You say after a few days, so can you give me an indication, will we see economic reforms before the year is out, more economic reforms?
Well, what I am saying is the process of economic reforms has not stopped. It will not stop, because once you do the essentials, there is not very much more to do. You have to do a few things here and there by way of maintaining the pace, etc., which is being done. But that is not noticed because that becomes routinized.
But you're still committed to things like an exit policy, to freeing the exchange rate, to
all those
greater financial reforms of banks.
Yeah, all those matters are being examined. You see, there is no such thing as an exit policy, properly so-called. What we are doing here through the National Renewal Fund is to see that wherever it is necessary to bring a particular industry back to health, we take several measures. Out of those measures, reduction of the workforce is one. And when that happens, we will have to see that it is done with a human face. We will have to see that no one is thrown on the street without a job in this country. That should not happen. And that aspect is being taken care of.
My last question, Prime Minister, addressed particularly to those who are supporters of yours. They look at you and they say, the Prime Minister's in a no-win situation. If he is strong and tough with the BJP, he could polarize the situation and make matters worse. If he doesn't take strong action, he'll lose the Muslim community.
I am not in a no-win situation. I am not really out to win communities. I am out to do my duty, and that is the duty of secularism. I have to see that this country is held together. I do not really calculate what is going to happen tomorrow. I am calculating what is to happen in the long run, and that is my real concern. This India should remain, should live forever for the coming generations.
And the Congress Party is behind you.
The Congress Party is solidly behind this.
The cabinet as well.
The cabinet, the Congress Party, every congressman in this country is behind this. No one wants anything else done or anything different done.
In which case there is no question of Mr. Narasimha Rao resigning as Prime Minister of India.
Why should I? There is no question. No question at all.
You will finish your full 5-year term?
Of course I will. I will.
Prime Minister, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Time for another pause, but then what the Congress Party thinks of Mr. Narasimha Rao as we present the first ever poll of Congress MPs.
Will hands like these still weave magic for our children? Reviving timeless traditions. ITC, New Horizons, New Hopes.
वैमी कॉल गम जो चिपके सालों साल खेलो और मौज मनाओ खिलौने वैमी कॉल से बनाओ
गुड़िया को लगाओ मूछ चूहे को शेर की पूंछ
घर बनाओ फूल बनाओ दुनिया वैमी कॉल से सजाओ
वैमी कॉल चमत्कारी गम खूब चिपकाओ इसके संग
Welcome back. Questions were being raised about Mr. Narasimha Rao's performance within the Congress Party, albeit quietly, well before the Ayodhya affair. Now those concerns have been magnified. As he swung from a policy of seeming inaction to one of apparent overreaction, the Congress behind closed doors began asking how long he could continue. Mekhla Deva and Sabyasachi Jain spoke to over 75 Congress MPs to put together the first ever poll of the party's legislators. They found out what the ruling party really thinks of its leader, and their story raises the curtain on the truth behind the Congress's public image.
For 36 hours after the Babri Masjid came crashing down, it seemed so would Narasimha Rao. As the cabinet hurriedly assembled late at night on December 6th, the Prime Minister's head was on the block. One after another, ministers attacked him. Taking advantage of the widespread sense of shock, Arjun Singh discreetly tested the waters. But by the morning of December 8th, the party had apparently rallied round. A cabinet minister who'd scorned Rao on December 7th with the words,
"That man is just not in the habit of taking decisions,"
now said,
"Any delays in decision-making are not without reason. Rao's position in the party is now unassailable."
To find out if this was really so, we talked to a wide cross-section of prominent congressmen and women. Separately, we conducted the first ever poll of Congress MPs, choosing our 76 respondents at random. The picture that emerged was not entirely reassuring for the Prime Minister.
This kind of level, so far as in my nearly 15 to 16 years parliamentary career, I never seen such kind of a dissatisfaction.
The flashpoint, of course, was Ayodhya. In our poll, as many as 53% believe the situation was mishandled, whilst only 42% say the Prime Minister couldn't have done better. What do the Muslim members of Parliament from the Congress feel about the way the whole Ayodhya situation was handled?
Naturally, everybody is disappointed and unhappy.
Jafar Sharif admits he thought of resigning from the cabinet. Others threatened to leave the party.
मेरा अपना ख्याल ये है कि हम अगर जैसे ये कम्युनल पार्टियों पर आरएसएस वगैरह पर बैन लगाया है और भी दूसरे ज़रूरी कदम कांग्रेस उठा ले तो जो एतमाद है वो रिस्टोर होगा, छोड़ने की कोई वजह नहीं है। और अगर नहीं होता तो हर एक को सोचने का हक है, वो सोचे।
One can understand their grievances against us. Some of them communicated me also. They said we were depending on you, and you could not protect whether mosque or people, and that's why there is unhappiness.
Not at all minimizing the present situation, where the people are quite angry with the party. More or less, it is there on a fairly wide range of people. All of us are sorry for it, and I mean entirely everyone concerned has to take responsibility.
What form must this acceptance of responsibility take?
Well, that is for a matter to be discussed and decided.
However, our poll shows that the party is actually blaming Narasimha Rao. Whilst many accuse him of earlier inaction, some are criticizing him for subsequent overreaction.
There is no need for panic reactions and panic judgments and panic announcements. I think we should think over the matter coolly, get everybody together now that the act has been done.
It's Ayodhya that really brings out Rao's critics. Only 20% feel he's emerged unscathed, whilst 4 out of 5 say he's been weakened. Though publicly the party has rallied round the PM, in private they are pointing fingers at him.
We made a promise in our manifesto that the temple will be built without dismantling the mosque. Now the mosque is no longer there. To that extent, we have failed to keep our promise in the manifesto.
There's a Urdu couplet on that के इधर उधर की बात ना कर, ये बता कि काफिला क्यों लुटा. हमें राज़नों से गर्ज नहीं, तेरी राबरी का सवाल है. Question is of leadership. What role the leadership of the country played at this crucial hour.
But it's not only Ayodhya that congressmen complain about. Many are also concerned about the continual erosion of the party's image because of what they see as the Prime Minister's neglect of issues as far apart as the banishing of Bangarappa and the process of economic reforms. On Bangarappa, the MPs were quite explicit. Though 1/3 of them think Narasimha Rao handled the Bangarappa issue well, 2/5 feel he bungled. One MP from Karnataka even felt the need to add another box to our questionnaire.
Very badly handled,
he said.
Though I am very sure that the High Command knows the need for replacement, but the delay in replacement has caused little damage to the party.
The next question produced yet more negative results. Whilst 38% approved of his handling of Kashmir, the majority did not. One minister said,
"It hasn't been handled at all."
Though 5 MPs said Rao's handling is imaginative, one of them actually meant something else.
Yeah, it's imaginative. It's all in his mind, isn't it?
It is not limited to law and order. There is more than that.
So it requires more imagination?
It requires more efforts, more communication with the people.
Issue is the long-awaited cabinet reshuffle. Most MPs think it's the PM's prerogative to choose the moment, but 1/3 feel strongly enough to find fault.
He's handling some of the most important ministries all by himself.
Yeah. And that does lead to slowing down of the administration in those ministries?
Well, that does affect. That does, at least I can say from the viewpoint of performance in the parliament.
There are 2 rooms full of files, waiting for his clearance. It's physically impossible for him to even sign them all.
Visitors ask me, who's your foreign minister? I say Prime Minister. Who's your commerce minister? Prime Minister. Who's your industries minister? Prime Minister. Who's your law minister? Prime Minister. This is too much.
But perhaps what's most dividing the party are the economic reforms. While 38% feel the need for fresh impetus, many are more concerned about their vote banks. One way or another, as many as 83% of MPs are unhappy.
We have seen in Eastern Europe, what we have seen in former USSR, if decision in the front of economy is not taken at proper time, ultimately that economy and these delay in decision affect the whole nation.
They're not moving forward. Now, there is no way you can jump half a well. If you want to reform, you must go through the whole process of reform. You cannot stop. You cannot hold back. You cannot turn back.
I do feel that our vote bank will be affected when there will be a propaganda that the subsidy withdrawal has been done on instance of big, IMF, World Bank or the imperialist countries.
So many MPs disagreeing with the pace of reforms is probably an indication that Rao has failed to explain what he's trying to do.
His economic initiatives were never discussed in party forums. We were only asked to endorse them.
He talks of consensus, but where is the consensus within the party?
Now, they can't really support us wholeheartedly, apart from party discipline, unless we're able to get across to them and say, look, this is what we are doing.
Economic issues, though divisive, will never really excite political passions, and whilst Ayodhya does, in time it will recede. But the one problem that will stay with Rao is that having lost his credibility and consequently his authority, MPs are now openly sniping at his style of functioning. And that is something he cannot change, no matter what orchestrated image his working committee strives to present.
He don't want to rub anybody. He want to appease everybody, and he want to see that everybody is in good humor, and the solution should be found out of it.
Do you think that is working?
It has not worked. That's what I can say. It has not worked.
Indecisiveness, vacillation and oscillation are damaging the party. Should we be expected to sit quiet?
And when it comes to the PM style, our poll confirms this concern. Just 1 in 10 believe the PM grabs the initiative, whilst 3 out of 4 think he reacts rather than acts. And a few actually added another category, insisting he doesn't react at all. Narasimha Rao's handling of the party was particularly criticized. Though he started off well, holding elections to the working committee, he ruined it all by nullifying the results when they were not to his liking.
He himself wanted elections, but then he acted even worse than Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi.
An example of such concerns is the fact that the vacancies in the CWC have not yet been filled, and the Congress Parliamentary Board remains unconstituted.
I don't understand explanation for this delay. And 1.5 years is a quite a lot of time, and he should take that decision as early as possible.
The quality of Rao's leadership is also under question. Other than Punjab, the party has scarcely made any gains. In fact, many fear it is losing ground.
You mean the party is actually slipping backwards?
That's what my apprehension.
What are the reasons for this, Mr. Ramamurthy?
Reasons were the communication gap between the party workers and the party hierarchy.
In UP, where the most ground has to be covered, the party continues to be a collection of factions, more interested in fighting each other than the BJP.
Voters are in the huts, voters are in the slum area, voters are in the interior villages. There we have to reach. They are eagerly waiting for the Congress people.
So why is the Congress party not doing this?
Because they are busy in their own survival.
I think the centre and our central leadership has to now make up its mind that a group of 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 people in UP have to be developed, have to be pushed.
So, not surprisingly, Rao's stock as party leader is much lower than that of his predecessor. Despite his more democratic functioning, only 11% of the MPs think he's better than Rajiv. However, when we asked MPs to compare them as prime ministers, the results were surprisingly different. More than half the MPs say he's as good or even better. The qualities they appreciate are his political experience and ability to walk the tightrope. So, the overall assessment of the MPs is that Rao has functioned fairly well as the head of a minority government. Half of them grade him as excellent or good, but 1 in 6 put him down as bad or very bad.
But the real question is, how long can Narasimha Rao survive? He lacks charisma and has no political base to speak of. Many say the only factor that keeps him in power is the composition of the Congress Parliamentary Party, which is dominated by South Indian MPs. Whilst a man at number 1 Racecourse Road looks a likely successor, Rao is reasonably safe.
If Arjun Singh becomes PM, we'll all get a few favors done. But what will happen to the country?
Do you have ambitions to be Prime Minister someday?
Well, this is such a, what you call, ghisa-pita question that I don't even feel like answering it.
You are not willing to put on record yes or no that you do have...
Why should I? I think that's what I'm saying, that this is a question which is misplaced.
Sharad Pawar, who'd reached a temporary understanding with Arjun Singh at Tirupati, is now much closer to the Prime Minister. He too is not keen to see Arjun become number 1. So in these circumstances, what is the answer to the question, how long will Rao last? The PM came out with a less than convincing vote of confidence from his MPs. While only 58% were certain he'd last 5 years, fully 40% were either sure he'd be toppled or were uncertain of his future.
What I read is 60% believe that he will continue.
Isn't that a remarkably low figure of confidence for a Prime Minister to have?
No. On the contrary, it's a good figure.
So the final tally of the Eyewitness poll of Congress MPs is like this. On the negative side, 4 out of 5 MPs think Ayodhya has diminished Rao's stature, and 4 in 5 disagree with him on the economy. The good news is that half of them think he's a good Prime Minister, and yet 40% can't be certain he'll last. No one gave us a convincing answer as to why, but one MP did try to explain it in traditional political terms.
The biggest question bothering me right now is, with whose photograph do we go to the next elections?
And there we take another break. But then, the BJP, as the country's opposition party stands at a crossroads, we ask, which way will it turn? And Atal Bihari Vajpayee speaks his mind as the party's moderates start hitting back. Welcome back. The debacle in Ayodhya has both given the BJP its greatest opportunity and also reduced its fortunes to their lowest ebb. That, at least, is how different factions within the party see their future. And the difference may not remain one of mere interpretation. It could lead to a battle over the direction the party hereafter takes, which may in turn tear it apart. Nireth Alva and KP Vijay examine the possibilities that lie ahead and the costs and consequences they entail.
With its governments dismissed, its top leadership arrested, and its kindred organizations banned, the BJP stands at a crossroad. For as the dust settles on the demolition at Ayodhya, it is apparent that the BJP has effected the greatest political polarization since independence. Equally importantly, the communal frenzy which followed the events of December the 6th has been so seared on the Indian conscience that perhaps India has changed forever. In this situation, the BJP's hardliners want to capitalize on what they consider the achievements of December 6th, whilst the party's moderates want to draw back, rethink and start again. Yet most outside analysts believe that if the party is to channelize the sympathy it might have garnered into hard electoral gains, it must walk a tightrope between both factions. So as it stands at this historic crossroad, which way will it turn? That is the dilemma the BJP faces.
They're in deep trouble. And they're in deep trouble because of one thing. You see, they had been projecting, and I think fairly successfully projecting themselves as a possible government in waiting. This image has been, I think, severely dented after what has happened, which means that even if they are centrist and disciplined, they certainly cannot control their followers.
It will be a matter of very close scrutiny and examination by the party. Why did it happen? What went wrong? Where did the control mechanisms of the party as such fail? The leadership had given a commitment, we shall not let it happen. Where did the leadership misjudge the situation? Did it misjudge public sentiment? Did it misjudge administrative arrangements? In any respect, did it misjudge the temper of the rank and file of the party?
That's a question that will almost certainly be answered in the affirmative. But questions asked by men like Jaswant Singh and even Vajpayee may not count for much. They are acknowledged moderates, and on that fateful day, it seemed as if the mantle of leadership had finally passed to the hardliners. So today, will their doubts be raised? And if they are, will they be answered?
There are differences, there are different opinions, but our party has a significant and specific character that when we take a collective decision, every member, every person, even he might be having a different opinion, he abides by the collective decision.
Suppose I express some strong views in the party meeting, then I should be described as a strong liner. And somebody else in a soft manner, soft approach is there in the party. He should be moderate. The whole thing is combined, heard, discussed, deliberated upon, and then finally a solution is arrived at.
What lies behind all this is the future of the BJP as a political party, not only as a credible alternative to the Congress, but also as a viable opposition in the interim. And here, since the first task was to limit the damage done to its reputation on the 6th, the moderate line prevailed.
We are sorry we could not prevent a section of car sevaks to damage the disputed structure.
It was not at all planned and thought out before. It was all accidental. In the presence of our leaders, when this sort of thing came out, then we have to regret for that.
But even at this stage, there were others who took a defiant approach. Uma Bharti, for instance, in an interview to Eyewitness just before she was taken into custody, was unrepentant.
हम तो रिग्रेट नहीं करते. I am proud of them who did it. क्योंकि वो तो एक नेशनल शेम था, इस देश के ऊपर एक बहुत बड़ा कलंक का धब्बा था जो मिट गया, और इसमें वो मुसलमानों के लिए भी उतना ही कलंक था जितना कि हमारे लिए था.
Do you regret the demolition of the Babri Masjid?
Why should I?
You don't regret it at all?
No, not at all.
There's no point of regretting about the events which happened in a certain course of events.
So you have no regrets at all?
No.
Today at this point?
No.
How the moderate hardline split would have fared if nothing had happened to affect it is hard to say. But the Narasimha Rao government's decisions to dismiss the BJP governments and arrest its leaders has had, at least on the surface, one critical effect. It has forced the moderates to close ranks with the hardliners behind what appears to be a fresh cause célèbre.
The decision regarding the rebuilding of the mosque, the arrest and the dismissal. I think these three things in particular have helped the BJP a great deal to kind of portray itself as a victimized organization. Now the aggressor, in a certain sense, has turned martyr.
It is the government and Shri Narasimha Rao who is mobilizing people for us.
I don't know which way does he want to go or take the Congress. He is entering into a disastrous sphere by making all the announcements he has been making, and the BJP is growing.
Just how far-reaching the impact of Mr. Rao's decisions on the BJP divide actually were can easily be shown. Not only did moderates like Vajpayee, who had been expressing regret, change their stance, but they also went on to the offensive. Vajpayee tried to hold his now famous Talkatora Stadium rally, defying tear gas, and got arrested.
ये मीटिंग न होने देना एक इंतहाई बेवकूफ़ी की चीज़ है, कोई अक्ल की बात नहीं है और कोई लॉजिक नहीं है, कोई मतलब नहीं.
You now, in the midst of a no confidence motion, of which he is the mover, you go and arrest Atal Bihari Vajpayee when the parliament is in session. On what charge? On the charge that he wishes to go and give voice to his views? He's got every right, after 40 years, almost half a century of public life in the country, he hasn't a right to go and give voice to his views. After what he has done in parliament, he is the only speaker that poured a balm, that applied a balm to the wounds that had afflicted India. And you go and arrest Atal Bihari Vajpayee on these grounds.
Later, surrounded by thousands of party workers inside Delhi's Parliament Street police station, this is what he told Eyewitness.
But if you call me a liberal, then look how the government has treated a liberal. If they won't allow a liberal to hold a public meeting, their real face has been unmasked, and they deserve to be thrown out.
So gone was the public image of a shaken and divided party. What replaced it was defiance and determination to fight to the finish.
और हम सरकार से कह रहे हैं, तीनों प्रादेशिक सरकारों को भंग करने की गलती मत करो, इसके गंभीर नतीजे होंगे. सारे देश में इसका आपको मुकाबला करना पड़ेगा. शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से हम लड़ेंगे और हम जनता के बल पर लड़ेंगे, कानून के बल पर नहीं. This country should be declared as Hindu country, Hindu राष्ट्र. It is a Hindu राष्ट्र.
Okay. Then what about secularism का मतलब क्या होगा?
Secularism हमारे से बढ़कर के secular इस विश्व में कोई भी नहीं है.
But have Mr. Rao's ham-handed responses really united the BJP just when divisions threatened its ranks? Or to put it differently, is this really a victory for the hardliners? Will the Joshi-Uma Bharti line now reign supreme with Advani uneasily shifting positions? Or will the fight between the moderates and hardliners simply disappear from public view but continue within party ranks?
There are differences of looking or perception. There are viewpoints, and those viewpoints are asserted. Those will continue to be discussed because it's an evolutionary situation. The Bharatiya Janata Party is not a static organization. It is dynamic, and it is growing, and it will grow every day and every hour, and if it is to grow, it must continue to discuss.
Despite the apparent consensus within the BJP, there are several questions which remain unanswered. It's over these that the moderates and hardliners could still fall apart. How will the party pursue Hindutva? What relations will the BJP seek with organizations like the VHP and the Bajrang Dal? And what sort of strategies will be adopted in the coming months?
They don't know what line is actually going to sell and who will be the leaders. See, so I think they're in a serious dilemma. There's a serious danger that the militants in the movement, people like Ashok Singhal, Sadhvi Ritambara, Uma Bharti, these are the people who seem to be getting the public accolades.
In fact, much of what the BJP does will depend on what the government does. And the stronger the line the government takes, the greater the chance of the hardline faction in the BJP gaining ground. For instance, the decision to rebuild the mosque has given the hardliners a rallying point that might be hard for the moderates to ignore.
अगर अभी वहाँ मस्जिद बनाने की कोशिश की तो करोड़ों लोग हम वहाँ ले जाएंगे. हम ना पहुँचेंगे तो भी लोग वहाँ पहुँचेंगे, लाखों लोग अपनी जान दे देंगे, हम सब अपने प्राणों की बलि दे देंगे, लेकिन हम वहाँ मस्जिद अब नहीं बनने देंगे.
अगर आज नरसिंहा राव और वहाँ पर मस्जिद बनवाने की बात करते हैं तो मैं समझता हूँ एक नरसिंहा राव दूसरे बाबर के रूप में हमारे सामने में आएंगे. बाबर राष्ट्र विरोधी था, इस देश का पैदा हुआ नहीं था, विदेशी आक्रामक था. तो जैसे विदेशी आक्रामक के साथ में व्यवहार किया जाता है वैसा हम राव के साथ करेंगे.
The reconstruction of the mosque, whether you call it a structure or a mosque, is not acceptable.
However, at the end of the day, the BJP with its long-term goal of taking power at the center will probably avoid the path of total confrontation. After all, spearheading a purely religious movement could even invite its de-recognition as a political party. That means a complete victory for the hardliners is ruled out.
My feeling is the Sangh Parivar will assert, and it will have to assert very strongly in favor of the moderates in the BJP, because surely, see, the RSS would not like Bal Thackeray to take over the agenda. They would rather have an Advani or a Vajpayee who can be controlled by the Sangh.
It's on the middle ground over how to implement policy that the moderate hardline battle will take place. First, the whole question of Hindutva. Perhaps the BJP slogan has captured the public imagination, but it has also become synonymous with yatras, the temple-mosque dispute, and an exacerbated communal divide. In fact, many members of the BJP openly acknowledge the need to make Hindutva more of a philosophical abstraction and less of a purely cynical emotional issue.
People go by just some catchy slogans, and there is a group of people, elitist amongst the Hindus also, who do not understand anything about Hinduism. It is not a sect, it is not a creed, Hinduism, it is a way of living. So that is known, sometimes if you put it in Sanskritized word, Hindutva.
I don't think Hindutva is a pursuit that you delineate in terms of step 1, step 4, step 7, etc. Hindutva is really the articulation of really reasserting, reawakening national consciousness about the civilizational core of our nationhood.
Even if the moderates carry the day on this issue, the problem with their attempts to redefine Hindutva is that it has to happen at the same time as the BJP prepares for an all-out offensive against the dismissal of its government and to secure the release of its leaders. Will the logic of the latter force the former into the background? It might. But the first signs are that the campaign against the dismissals will be constitutional, which suggests that the two can happen together.
We will do everything within the framework of the constitution, whatever legal, whatever constitutional, and we hope that the people in Delhi, they will also do according to constitution.
आवश्यकता पड़ेगी सत्याग्रह भी करेंगे, पर प्रारंभ में तो पब्लिक मीटिंग्स करेंगे, पैम्फलेट्स का डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन करेंगे, कितना गलत काम किया है सरकार ने ये बताएंगे, तो समझाने बताने के अंदर ही कोई मिलिटेंटली कोई इसके अंदर करने की बात इसमें नहीं आई है.
This will be a kind of blow hot, blow cold strategy aimed at putting a lot of pressure on the government, and also what they will try to do is to create a division among the non-BJP forces, because in the final analysis it does not help the BJP if all the non-BJP forces combine.
What then of the way the BJP will conduct its future relations with satellites like DHP and Bajrang Dal? In December, they seemed to lead whilst the party followed. Surely in future, the party will want to go its own way, loyal to the Sangh Parivar, but clearly separate and with its own distinct identity.
The whole Ram Janmabhoomi movement, instead of being the vehicle of the BJP, which the BJP would have liked it to be, became instead the vehicle of the Vishwa Hindu Parishad. Although organizations like the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, the Bajrang Dal, the Shiva Sena, to some extent even the RSS, they might have gained from it, but not BJP as a parliamentary political party.
The point is they have their separate field of activity, we have our separate field of activity, and this common purpose of building a temple is there, that's all.
And when it comes to political strategies and policies, the issues on which the party will stake its future, the fight between moderates and hardliners could be particularly severe. The start of this could be the removal of Joshi as president. The battle to succeed will determine the content of what follows.
I think BJP does have to make a very careful reassessment now. This is not the first time. After all, the Janasangh had to do a very careful reassessment when it changed its line from what used to be known as the Balraj Madhok line of Qatar communalism to the Deen Dayal Upadhyay line of a more broad socio-economic program. It did a reassessment at that time, and it took the correct turn. I think now again it has to do a reassessment, and I hope that it will return to something like the Deen Dayal Upadhyaya line rather than get pushed towards the Balraj Madhok line. And I think today it is closer to the original image of the Janasangh than to the revised image of the BJP as it was made by Deen Dayal Upadhyaya.
Which way the battle for the BJP goes is hard to tell, but what is certain is that this will be a fight for the soul of the party. And with the political divisions in the country growing, and with a midterm poll seeming a distinct possibility, what happens to the BJP is not just a party matter, but a national issue. After all, the winners of this internal feud could emerge as the next rulers of the country.
Although most BJP leaders have either become controversial or lost credibility, for many there is still one who commands respect. He is often described as a lone voice in his party or even just a liberal facade to disguise a less tolerant reality. But whatever you think of him, Atal Bihari Vajpayee has a way of speaking out when the chips are down. And that's exactly what he does in this interview. And although many in his party may not like what he says, they cannot ignore it.
Mr. Vajpayee, you've often been described as a liberal. What does a liberal mean to you? What are the sort of liberal values that you hold dear?
Take, for example, tolerance. Even if you think that the other viewpoint is not correct, you have to listen to that viewpoint. You have to respect the holder of that viewpoint. There are bound to be differences. But differences should not lead us to intolerance. Just because you differ with somebody, you should not become intolerant of them.
Do you find people around you becoming intolerant? Do you find that intolerance
No,
is
there
increasing?
is a growing tendency, yes, in the country as a whole.
In politics?
Attitudes are getting hardened. There is the keenness to debate is no longer there. To argue the case. The moment you differ, you think that the other guy is a rascal, is a dishonest person, and his view should be rejected in toto. This is something not desirable at all. Tolerance, compassion, respect for each other's viewpoint. Even if we differ, we should be ready to have a debate. And this is missing.
Did you, after December the 6th, offer your resignation to Mr. Sundar Singh Bhandari, the Vice President of the BJP, and to the Lok Sabha Speaker?
I sought the permission of the party to resign from Lok Sabha. When I met the Speaker, I expressed my desire to submit my resignation. The party did not allow me to resign. The Speaker was not willing to accept my resignation.
Why did you want to resign?
No, I wanted to resign from the Lok Sabha because I had to defy the chair. It never happened that when a speaker was on his legs, I persisted in saying something. But that happened that day. Congress friends of the left parties, they did not allow me to speak. The Honorable Speaker wanted me to make my submission. But the next day, the situation reached such a boiling point that on behalf of the party, I had to say something because I became the spokesman after the arrest of Mr. Advani. But his Speaker did not allow me. And in a way, I defied him.
So you were resigning from the Lok Sabha in protest against the Speaker's refusal?
Not in protest, to express my regrets that such a situation, I was confronted with such a situation that I had to defy the chair. I had to defy the chair.
Why did you submit your resignation to Mr. Bhandari? Were you also resigning from the party?
No, I was not resigning from the party. I was resigning from the national executive.
Why were you doing that?
No, because of differences on the Ayodhya issue.
What sort of differences?
No, what happened on 6th of December at Ayodhya should not have happened at all. And we could not control those who assembled at Ayodhya. It was a failure on our part. We have expressed regret. But I thought that I was also responsible for creating an impression in the country. I had addressed a public meeting at Lucknow jointly with Advani ji and Joshi ji. I had given a clear assurance to the people that the disputed structure will not be demolished. But it was demolished. I wanted to express my regrets, agony, anguish. That's why I tendered resignation.
You also spoke of differences within the national executive. What sort of differences?
No, I don't discuss party matters in public.
All right. Why did you allow them to persuade you to withdraw your resignation?
No, because when I saw that party was sharing my view, and top leaders of the party, even top leaders of RSS, they came out with public statements regretting what had happened at Ayodhya. Then I decided not to pursue with it.
Did you say the party shares your view?
We view that what happened at Ayodhya was regrettable,
but
was unfortunate.
They don't describe it in the terms in which you describe it. There is a fundamental difference of quality.
No, I don't think there is any fundamental difference. The terminology is the same.
The party is anguished?
Party regretted.
And is anguished, as you said?
No, that may be my personal feeling, but there are...
The party accepts a failure, another one of your words?
Yes, to maintain discipline, to keep the flock together, yes.
Let me put it differently. Are you happy that they succeeded in persuading you not to resign?
No, I don't propose to reply to that question. Whether I'm happy or unhappy, that is not very important.
Sounds as if you're unhappy. It's very easy to say I'm happy.
I wish it were so simple.
It's not so simple. So you are unhappy.
Please put another question.
Mr. Vajpayee, what are the sort of things that make you unhappy as a party man?
That will require a long reply.
You have all the time in the world, sir.
No, but I don't have time.
Please give us some idea. You're a senior and very respected
No, I'm not
politician.
discussing all these matters, please.
But you accept that there are many things within the party that make you unhappy today?
Yeah, there are.
Many things?
Yeah.
To what extent in your image has the party's important image of discipline, of adherence to principle, of maintaining law and order suffered as a result of December the 6th?
To some extent, yes.
To a great extent?
No, to some extent. But BJP's image as a disciplined party has suffered to some extent, and we are concerned about it. But as I said, the party has the strength to surmount these temporary setbacks.
All right, surmounting setbacks does require rethinking. It does require slight changes and adjustments. So let's talk about that. In future, what sort of relations would you like your party to have with organizations like the Bajrang Dal, the VHP, even the Dharm Sansad?
No, this is not the time to discuss our relations with other organizations, particularly in the situation when organizations are bent. They are facing an onslaught from the government.
Okay, Mr. Vajpayee,
So I have to have...
let me stop your defensiveness. What you're still implying is that at some point the party has to rethink its relationship, but maybe not now.
Not only the party, the entire country has to rethink.
But the party has to rethink its relationship with these particular organizations.
Not only with these organizations, but party has to undertake self-introspection. And we are doing it at the moment.
What does this self-introspection cover? What are the sort of things it needs to think about?
No, why things happened the way in which they happened at Ayodhya on the 6th? Why? That is the question.
Several leaders of your party were involved in taking masses there, giving conflicting opinions. I'm talking about Mr. Advani for one. He took people there, he organized yatras that instigated people, he gave conflicting advice to MPs, he said conflicting things, he wasn't even clear-cut, it seems, about the nature of the Kar Seva. To what extent, at the end of the day, does Mr. Advani have to bear a large responsibility that the party will want to focus in on?
No, I would not like to discuss Mr. Advani here. But
the leadership as a whole will be?
No, as I told you earlier, even on the 5th December, we were convinced that no damage will be caused to the disputed structure. We thought that those who had collected at Ayodhya will abide by the decision taken by the top leadership. Unfortunately, they did not do so.
What you're saying is that there was a failure of judgment by the leadership, and that needs to be introspected upon.
Yes, we miscalculated, yeah.
And the leadership...
Because we were, at the last moment, we were faced, the people collected at Ayodhya were faced with the choice of either doing nothing or doing something undesirable.
And in a sense, the leadership was responsible for letting this outcome happen. They should have thought about it in advance.
No, we should have thought about many things in advance. But we had pinned our hopes on the judgment being delivered before the 6th.
Do you believe that the BJP should now struggle for the restitution of temples at Mathura, Kashi Vishwanath?
No, this is a hypothetical question.
Unfortunately, a lot of things begin as hypotheses. A lot of things begin as hypotheses. Would you want the party to struggle for these two temples after everything that's now happened?
No, Mathura, either Mathura or Varanasi, they are not on our agenda.
And you don't want them on the agenda?
No.
Let me say something else to you. You sounded very honest. You've spoken with enormous sincerity and confidence. But a lot of people listen to Atal Bihari Vajpayee and say, he speaks in a conciliatory fashion on one day, and he blows very hot like a devil the next. He's being manipulated by the RSS.
People are free to draw their conclusions. I am what I am. And
but is there a sense in which...
And I don't suffer from double think or double speak. No, I don't.
Everything you said to me today, you mean?
Of course. Do you have any doubts?
In which case, why have you publicly told us that you wanted to resign from the NEC? Surely these are factors that will embarrass the party a little. Why have you told me this?
No, because you asked me a question and I wanted to be truthful. I didn't want to hide facts.
Do you also want to push the party by making public your position towards coming closer to your thinking?
No, no question of pushing the party.
It's moving there anyway.
I do place my viewpoint very strongly in the party, before the party.
Do you think your colleagues like you in the party, your senior colleagues?
You direct that question to my colleagues.
In which case, my last question, Mr. Advani.
Mr. Advani?
My apologies, a Freudian slip. In that case, Mr. Vajpayee, is there any chance of your wanting to resign from the National Executive or Parliament again in the foreseeable future? Can you see anything happening that might make you want to resign again?
No.
You're going to stay in the National Executive for the foreseeable future?
Yes.
Mr. Vajpayee, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And there we take our last break. But then top Indian politicians join us to debate how India after Ayodhya will fare in 1993.
The hors d'oeuvres, exotic. The salad, crisp. The melody, sweet. The composer, Beethoven. The feeling, warm. The airline, Air India.
A great new experience.
Odyssey from VIP.
Welcome back. Like an atom bomb, the fallout of Ayodhya is likely to be more far-reaching than the actual demolition itself. As yet, understandably, it's the initial trauma that has concentrated our minds. But as the weeks pass, it's time to assess how in 1993 India will experience this impact and what we can do to contain it. For if there is one thing we can be clear of, it's that December the 6th, 1992 was not the culmination so much as the beginning of a new chapter. Here to discuss and speculate about what the future holds are four leading politicians. They are, in alphabetical order, Mr. Sikandar Bakht, the leader of the opposition in the Rajya Sabha and vice president of the BJP, Mr. George Fernandes, former Industries and Railways Minister and a leading member of the National Front Left Front Combine, Mr. Madhav Rao Sindhya, the Minister for Tourism and Civil Aviation and a future contender for Prime Minister, and Mr. Chandrashekhar, former Prime Minister and head of the Samajwadi Janata Party. Mr. Chandrashekhar, as we enter 1993, what would you say is the lasting impact of December 6th?
I don't know. It is very difficult for me to say anything about the impact of December 6th because as of today, it is a matter of national shame. And I don't know how long nation will take to recover from it because even today, the attitude of the people concerned with the Ayodhya affair is not very positive. It is, I am not trying to apportion blame to any one group or any one party, but the nation as a whole and the political party collectively are not responding to the calamity that has befallen to the nation. So it is very difficult for me to make a conjecture.
In your long time in politics, can you remember a moment as bad as this before?
I think the only moment that I can think of is the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi. But even at that time, that was an act of one person who went mad or who was a lunatic in the words of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Here, everybody in politics has failed. And sordid affair is that the government of India has failed and the main opposition party has not been able to keep up the promise made to the people of this country, to the Parliament, to the National Integration Council and the Supreme Court. And saddest part of it is that for 6 hours, that monument was being demolished and the government of India was a passive spectator. We have no explanation.
I want very much to talk about this failure of the government, but before we do that, to what extent, Mr. Fernandes, do you think that our secularism has been damaged?
As of now, it looks that it has been damaged beyond repair.
Beyond repair?
As of now. Because you have one side which is just not prepared to admit the fact that there has been any wrong committed in Ayodhya. But I would like to make a point, taking off from what Chandrashekhar has said, and that is, in terms of the failure, when you discuss failure of various parties and so on, I do not believe that this failure is something that is related to only 6th of December. There has been a total breakdown in our politics, and this breakdown has been over these last decade and more. Since the emergency, I do not believe that we have had any serious politics. Where are the people who are today debating the issues that Ayodhya has thrown up?
Okay, we're talking a lot about failure, and much of it has to fall into your lap inevitably, Mr. Scindia. If you had been Prime Minister, would you have trusted the BJP? Particularly when it was quite clear that they were doing almost everything to thwart the positioning of central forces in and around Ayodhya. Would you have trusted them?
Well, let me say, first of all, that that's a hypothetical question, the way you put it. Secondly, my views on the BJP are...
What's wrong with hypothetical questions? Please answer.
No, I am answering it, but I'm just putting it in the right perspective. So what you asked me, in the terms in which you put it, it is a hypothetical question. And as far as my personal views on the BJP is concerned, and I think I reflect what my party also feels about it, is I think my views are very well known.
Which is you wouldn't have trusted them?
No, which is really symbolized in the statement that I did make in Lucknow about a year ago. As far as trusting them is concerned, I think that the person, it's something which comes within the purview of the Home Ministry. The Home Minister was dealing with it. There is a constitution in this country which we as a democratic party respect. And under that constitution, there was a duly elected government with a chief minister who gave an undertaking in not only the National Integration Council, not only to the Prime Minister and to the highest executive personality, but also to the highest court of the land. And I think that a government which was respecting the Constitution, which respects the Constitution, which is democratic in nature, probably accepted that. On hindsight, this may appear to have been maybe a mistake, but this is on hindsight.
Let's be specific. The Prime Minister made a mistake in trusting the BJP.
No, on hindsight.
On hindsight,
he made... I'm not saying that he made a mistake. Don't put words into my mouth. What I'm saying is that public judgment, some people may feel that on hindsight this was a mistake. But you have to judge an action at the time when it took place. And as an elected government of this country, we have a duty towards the Constitution. There is a Constitution laid down. And the Prime Minister, especially the Prime Minister, his the attitudes that he has, the very democratic attitudes that he has to make sure that he abides by that Constitution.
Sure, and you're a cabinet minister, and you have to make sure that you don't break ranks. But let me put it to them. Does his answer fill you with confidence?
No, I can understand the position of Madhav Raoji, but the problem is that Constitution envisages that there may be occasion when the state governments will not discharge their responsibility. And only for that occasion, a responsibility and authority has been given to the government of India to take care of the situation. It is not the question of trusting or not trusting BJP. The question is discharging your duty. I shall trust many leaders of the BJP, I tell very frankly.
Including Sikandrabad.
Including Sikandrabad, and more so, not only Sikandrabad, but I trust Atal Bihari Vajpayee more than anybody else in Parliament today, today.
But his party doesn't trust him.
No, even party, but it is not the question of trusting BJP. The question is whether I as the Prime Minister is capable of dealing with the situation or not. We cannot take excuse that we trusted a person, he betrayed, so nation was put to an affront or a shame. This is not the answer that I shall get convinced myself.
But there are differing opinions. There is also a very large section of people which do feel that the Prime Minister was correct in acting by the Constitution. And if he had taken any precipitate action, that would have been open to very, very great criticism.
Madhav Raoji, he was not acting according to the Constitution. The Constitution called upon the Prime Minister to be ready of a situation where the situation might go out of the hand of Kalyan Singh government. Leave the question of trust and distrust. If the government would have proved incapable, was there any responsibility of the government of India and the Prime Minister or not? That is the question. The Constitution envisages that in the situation of a failure of a state government, the government of India should step in order to correct the situation.
We've talked so far about the failure or the competence of the government before the 6th. Let's bring you in, Mr. Bhatt, and talk about how you think the government's handled things after the 6th. Am I right in believing that after the 6th, the government's actually boosted your party?
primarily, I'd like to come back to your question, of course, but primarily, I have two questions to ask and answer. One is about secularism. Probably Chandrashekhar ji or George perhaps said that, or you yourself asked the question about secularism, whether secularism has been bruised badly after the 6th of December. And I say that we have not been going the secularism way from the word go. The present situation is the result of 45 years. 6th of December has not arrived all of a sudden. It is the result of compartmentalizing secularism for the last 45 years.
That's very much the point Mr. Fernandez was making as well.
That's exactly. So what I mean is there are certain obvious aberrations in our using the word secularism up till now. We have been partners in governments with known communalists who got this country divided. And nobody seems to be aware of that fact today.
You were partners in government once upon a time with Mr. Chandrashekhar.
Yes, quite right. No, I am talking...
Although he wasn't part of the government, he was part of the party.
I am talking of the historically known communalists. I am talking of those communalists who got this country divided on the basis of two-nation theory. They are very much in the polity of this country today, and they are very much right in the lap of those who claim that they are the saviors of secularism in this country.
You've moved this discussion dramatically into the sphere of communalism much earlier than I wanted to.
No.
Do you see him as a communalist?
Have I finished? Have I finished, George? I was
well,
wondering.
If you ask me about Sikandar Bakht as a person, no. But if you ask me about his party, well, at the moment, I think the actions of the BJP are nothing but
action. I'll come to that. The question is that probably some of us...
Do you see the same threat of partition looming ahead of us again? I'll come back.
No, I believe in the inner resilience of the Indian people. I believe in an Indian tradition which has not happened just yesterday or today. It's happened over the last 5,000 years. And I believe that society, Indian society, over the years...
I'm relaxing. I thought that he put a question to me. Please continue. Please continue.
I want to carry the discussion on, that's why.
Please continue.
So, over the last 5,000 years, all Mother India has embraced all those who came to India. They've grown up as equals. They have received shelter here. And the whole society has got integrated. As a result of the integration, I don't think an artificial compartmentalization which a particular political party is trying to achieve in India to achieve its political objectives is really possible over the long term. Because look at the way, even from the economic angle, how the integration takes place. I mean, the glass makers and the bangle makers of Firozabad are predominantly Muslim. Let me complete now, Karan. It's you who's interrupting too often now. Let me just complete.
The bangle makers... I thought I'm totally lost.
Let me just...
Please go
ahead.
Right,
if I could just...
No, please
now that you've asked me to come in, let me just complete my statement. Right. You see the relationship between the bangle makers of Firozabad and those who ultimately sell those goods. It's a complete sympathetic relationship between the Hindu and the Muslim. You see the same thing in the brassware producers of Muradabad. You see the same thing in the weavers from Varanasi. And the same thing amongst the leather makers of Kanpur. So therefore, it is an integrated society over a very large number of years. And I don't think it can be dissected artificially overnight.
Okay, let me come back to you, Mr. Sikandar, but there is a feeling over here that your party has awakened something that may have been slumbering, but you've let a genie out of the bottle. Well, Hindu assertiveness. Do you accept that, Judge?
No, I don't. Because unfortunate is that in this country, my feeling has been that we have been applying the yardstick of communalism or secularism only on the Hindu, to which I don't agree at all. Unfortunately, you see, as far as Ayodhya is concerned, the 6th of December was a mere aberration. But from whatever we have been doing during the last 45 years, encouraging the old communalists in this country, something had to happen. And in fact, if you look at it, Ayodhya is in fact a massive protest against the re-emergence of the polity of pre-1947 which got this country divided.
No, I don't think that's right.
No, Sikandar Bakht ji,
well, that's how I feel. That's how I feel.
Let me make a point.
Please.
And this point goes back to 7th of August 1990, when the Mandal Commission recommendations were implemented. There was noise from the BJP. There were noises that the support of the government would be withdrawn. I went and met Lal Krishna Advani. And I told Advani ji that the direction that he was taking in terms of withdrawing support to the VP Singh government was not right. And you know Lal ji's reply? Lal ji said, George, you have left us with no alternative but take to Hindutva. In other words, if 7th of August 1990 had not taken place,
no, but what's wrong with Hindutva?
So what you're saying is it was politics. It was politics.
Not again,
absolutely.
George is only, I'm sorry, Karan, George is only confirming what I have said. What's wrong with Hindutva? I want to know. Hindutva is the faith and belief of the Hindu. Will you put the same question about Islam? You shouldn't. Because our secularism will be a very weak secularism. It doesn't permit an individual to follow his faith.
Mr. Chandrasekhar.
The whole problem is that we are digressing from the issue. There are two things. We can go into the debate about secularism and communalism. Here is the first question you raised about the responsibility of the government. The responsibility of the government will remain always, whether there is a secular government or a communal government or a Hindu government, because even if a Hindu government is there, there are certain primary duties which the government should perform, because the protection of the life and property of the citizen is the primary duty of a government. And Kalyan Singh government has failed on that. Whether it is a secular government or communal government, under the Indian Constitution, the government has no moral, constitutional, legal right to remain.
And Kalyan Singh reacted morally.
No, yes.
When he resigned, you see,
when
he reacted morally.
He resigned, but the way the masjid was demolished, that was a matter of shame. I am not coming to communalism and secularism, but there is a feeling, not only feeling, the way BJP has been taking the issue and has been trying to divert the mind of the people from the real problems to communal frenzy or emotive issues, that is a matter which cannot be justified by anybody who has the progress and prosperity of the country in mind.
There is a very important point that Mr. Chandrasekhar
meaning was this, I mean, we are forgetting history.
No,
this issue, just a minute, this issue has been there for the last...
No, Sikandar, no, Karan, let me, this is why if a mosque would have been demolished or a temple would have been demolished, you have demolished history.
No, I don't say that.
The history of more than 400 years old.
That this issue has been there right from 1936.
So are you
why was it a slumbering issue till 1986 for 50 years?
Are you trying to rewrite history?
No, I have not finished.
Mr. Karan, he is answering his own question.
What I'm saying
Which is that issue was there, but masjid was never demolished.
No.
It was
No, it's not that.
BJP government to be there to demolish that.
Okay, that's not the point. Let me finish my point, Karan. What I was saying was that somebody, you said that BJP converted it into a communal issue. What I say is, this issue became as a national controversy only in 1986.
Okay,
nobody seems to be wanting to tell this country that who's the culprit who converted this ordinary issue into a national controversy.
Let's not let ourselves get lost in history. There is an important issue Mr. Chandrasekhar raised, which is that the BJP has, in a sense today, unleashed a genie out of the bottle. There is a mood in the country of awakened Hindu assertiveness. Can you, or should I say, do you want to put the genie back?
No, I don't think it's really, I don't even really think the genie is really and truly out of the bottle, so to speak, because militancy is something which Hinduism has never really recognized. My objection is that the BJP seems to have hijacked my religion. I'm very proud of being a Hindu, just like every Muslim should be proud of Islam, like every Christian should be proud of Christianity, and every Sikh should be proud of Guru Nanak Dev. I'm proud of being a Hindu. And
nobody can disagree.
But my religion has been hijacked by an irresponsible mob who is masquerading in the name of Hinduism. I'm a Hindu, as I said, I'm proud to be a Hindu. I have given no letter of authority to Mr. Ashok Singhal or any other person from the BJP to be my spokesman.
I accept that.
And therefore, the majority,
it doesn't require a certificate from anybody.
I therefore believe that the majority Hindu in this country, the large majority, is still one who believes in non-violence, who believes
Fine,
in,
but
in,
the question
in
I
all
asked,
the
but
things
the
that
question I
Hinduism
asked
stood
is,
for in
but the
over
question
5,000
I
years.
asked was, as a government, are you concerned about the mood in the country of an awakened Hindu assertiveness that many people feel
I don't
exists
think
now?
so, because this is not the real Hindu ethos. It is something which, just a minute, let me just finish. The BJP, where I fault the BJP, is that they whipped communal frenzy up in the Hindu. It's something artificial. It's something which is, it is something which is alien to the Hindu. And it is not something which can ever survive long term.
Yes,
it has to subside. They will. They have very
Mr.
cleverly
Fernandez,
through.
you said that secularism has possibly been irreparably damaged. Do you believe that there is an awakened Hindu assertiveness, this mood of frenzy?
Oh yes, and I am surprised that Madhav should be so complacent about it. For the reason that it is not just the awakening at one level. It is the fact that there isn't any countervailing campaign at another level where people are brought back to their senses.
I was just going to bring this up.
So, do you share that feeling?
No, I think that we should not be too panicky about this immediate problem that has come up. I think that in spite of all provocations in the past, Hindu ethos has never taken to violence, has never taken to things which are being propagated today. There are many aggressors who came to this country and they looted the country, they killed people. But in spite of that, Hindu did not give up their tolerance, compassion, human brotherhood. But temporarily, I think this problem has come to a point where the nation will have to pay a very heavy price. And as George says, we should be conscious about it. And not only Madhav Rao Scindia being in the Congress party or in the government of India, I shall plead Sikandar Bhagat, men like Sikandar Bhagat, who were confirmed seculars. Now he is a new convert, so he is more enthusiastic.
Oh.
Because Sikandar Bhagat, you know his political background,
Yes,
and he has been my friend. So
I want to come to Mr. Sikandar Bhagat, but you spoke about the need for countervailing measures, and Mr. Scindia agreed.
That's right.
What if you were in government? Would you be doing in 1993?
No, I don't believe the government is capable of taking any countervailing measures. My problem is that there is no politics in India today. Where are the political parties? Where are their organizations? Where is their ideology? Where are they confronting Hindutva as an ideology? Nobody is challenging Hindutva as the faith of a person. Yeah. And that is not what Advani meant when he said, you have left us with no option, but now take to Hindutva. He meant that we will now fight back with a weapon which will be an ideological weapon. Hindutva as an ideology, and we don't have an answer to that.
Do you share that?
We do, because I fully agree with you, George, that there is no countervailing campaign, shall we say, or countervailing voice, so to speak. But the real Hindu is going to stand up. He is going to object to this hijack that is taking place. And there are many scholars of Hinduism who can really convey that message, what Hindutva really stands for.
We don't know here what the real Hindu will or won't do, but what will you as a government do to produce these countervailing measures?
So this is something which is not just the sole responsibility of government. The soul of the nation has to speak. And that soul of the nation will be awakened. The conscience of the nation will be aroused.
We're speaking philosophy. What will the government do in 1993 to ensure that the tolerance and the Indian ethos
Well, I think we've
itself?
already taken, the government has already taken certain decisions the day before yesterday. I think speedy implementation of those decisions are extremely necessary to slowly start the situation normalizing, and for the majority moderate Hindu to really understand what the BJP is after, to really expose the true nature of the BJP and arouse his real Hindutva instincts.
Okay, let's put this to Mr. Sikandar Bhagat. They've taken a lot of decisions. Are you running scared?
No, I'm saying we should be grateful. I mean, they are doing wonderful things. Wonderful things. And like banning organizations, like dismissing duly elected governments. Well, if they continue, and
no, I don't think he was referring to that.
Is this making you as a party and a movement stronger?
Of course it is. I mean, say, you see, he was talking about hijacking the Hindutva, etc., etc. Go to the people and find how is it that they are reacting. Unfortunately, as I'm sorry to be saying...
I'll come back to Mr. Scindia in a moment, but let's just bring them in. Mr. Bhagat says everything that this government is doing is counterproductive.
No, I tell you, confrontation does not arouse the feeling of tolerance. So any attempt of confrontation from their side or this side is not going to bring any improvement in the present situation. What I shall like to plead, that if you want to fight back Hindu communalism, you should be a little tolerant in dealing with them, and you should not put yourself into wrong.
You mean don't dismiss governments?
Don't dismiss government if it is necessary, but you should have the, you will have to give the reason. But unfortunate thing is that a person of Mr. Advani's stature says that this will pay our party, but this will harm the country. And he is proud of saying this. It can happen only in this country, that the leader of the opposition himself declares in the House of Lok Sabha that I know that this attitude of the government and other opposition parties is going to benefit his party, but at the cost of the country. So we expect some response from Mr. Advani also in correcting the situation.
The question is these rash actions. That is towards what? They are absolutely rash. Are they strengthening the constitution of the country by dismissing governments like this?
Just 1 minute. This is why I told that the immediate reaction of Mr. Advani and Atal Bihari Vajpayee both after the demolition was very sober. Advani was arrested and all of a sudden they took right about turn. I told Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee that was it so important, the arrest of Mr. Advani under an ordinary section of IPC, that you should change your whole attitude about Indian politics and the problem before the nation.
Let me pick up something you said. There's a widespread feeling which you all share that in a sense, politics has come to dominate this country. No matter whether you're BJP, Congress or wherever, you're all playing politics and the real loser is the country. There are no policies, there are no principles. And one of the most widespread cynical feelings outside is that ye sare neta hi hain. They just fight and quarrel with each other.
Politics, don't defame politics. Immediate political gains at any cost. That is not politics. Politics is something much more moral, much more ethical, much more.
So what you're saying?
I was really wanting to know from Chandrashekhar ji, Karan. I just wanting to know from. What about the right about turn? I have not been able to place it right.
What just a minute. I believe that the BJP has come to believe that Ram is going to put it in power. So no matter what you do, they will use every opportunity, whether presented by the government or whether prevailing in the country as a result of the lack of any kind of an ideological fight back.
Isn't this the point? Cynicism has taken over.
Prolong the issue and keep it alive. I mean, this would
I don't see why anybody should have any doubt on this.
Mr. Chandrashekhar, as a profession, as a tribe, have India's politicians let her down?
The Congress running a government in the partnership of Muslim League and on its own conditions.
I hold you brief for the Congress.
Gentlemen, we can't all talk together. I want to ask you, as a tribe, as a profession, given what you're talking about, the failure of there being a countervailing ethos, the failure of there being an ideology to fight Hindutva, as a tribe, have India's politicians let her down? Not individually, collectively.
Well, I think politicians today, they are more required who can stand up and speak their mind. And they are being, it is, I think, by and large, we'll have to admit that politicians are by and large being tempered by things like vote banks and their long-term and medium-term future, or something like the BJP, their short-term future. And I think a responsible political party and responsible politicians of a political party should weigh up the long-term interests of the nation. And certain things that Mr. Bhatt just talked about, certain measures that have been taken by government, there are sometimes very inconvenient periods in a government's life when it may have to take certain decisions which may not be entirely palatable to everyone. I mean, I know what the situation, I know, just a minute, I know what the situation in Bhopal was. I can't speak really about Rajasthan and Himachal Pradesh because I do not have the personal knowledge of this, but I know what was happening in Bhopal. Ministers were distributing sweets in Vallabh Bhavan. They were receiving the Kar Sevaks back at the station with garlands. Bajrang Dal was allowed to roam the streets of Bhopal, shouting loud slogans, and just a minute, terrorize everyone. Now, what basically I feel, all right, even if it's temporary, what is important is what is the message that is going down to your administration.
Exactly.
Because ultimately, if it starts affecting the administration and the bureaucrat himself is double-minded, what really do the political masters want?
Talking about hijacking.
This idea that the bureaucracy in Delhi, in league with the bureaucracy in Bhopal, is now going to be the upholder of secularism in the country is not acceptable. Politics has failed. I am prepared to accept that position. Politicians have failed. I'm prepared to accept that position.
There are three people here who say in one form or another politics or politicians have failed. Do you at least accept that much?
Well, yes, in a way, because I think we have been indulging for a very, very long time in the politics of electoral arithmetic. And that is what is failing this country, and that is what has resulted in the present, on the 6th of December.
What type of politics you have promoted? You means media. Because any time, as Madhav Rao said, a person tried to speak his mind, which was not very palatable at the moment, you people try to decry such politics. You people always encourage the politics, which was going to be the success of tomorrow.
You can have that both ways, Mr. Chandrashekhar.
No, it is not.
Politicians wouldn't be there if they wasn't for the publicity the media gives them also.
Yes, that is, and the politicians,
let's not get into
the
that
politicians who come out of publicity do these things which is happening in this country.
let me ask you a simple question.
Yes.
The government has to get back on track. Will a change of Prime Minister help?
I don't know, because I have spoken my mind. It is not always proper to rub the old man all the time. I'm not going to say anything about this.
You're becoming a diplomat late in life.
No, I'm not diplomat, because any prime minister in any parliamentary democracy would have survived this calamity.
Let me put something to you, Mr. Sindha. We have done a poll. 4 out of 5 Congress MPs in that poll say the Prime Minister is damaged or seriously damaged. 40% say that he will not finish his term. How do you respond to that?
Well, obviously, I'm meeting a different type of Congress MP because that's not my feedback. And
Would you accept that the party is concerned?
The party, I think every political party is concerned. We are, as an Indian, we are concerned. I mean, apart from just being, what is the agenda? What is this nation after? What is the BJP after? I mean, are we thinking today when the world is progressing so fast, so in such an accelerated, such an accelerated pace? No, because the BJP is taking us backwards.
He was talking about hijacking. I think he has hijacked the
We have to look forward today. What is the agenda for the nation?
Power.
What?
Let me look forward with a quick one-word answer from all of you. Are you optimistic for 1993?
As of now, no.
Mr. Chandrashekhar?
I think the people's mood will change and 1993 will have a better time.
Mr. Madhura Sindhya?
Yes, I think that 1993 will certainly be a good year. I think that we would get over this. I've already said that I think it's a temporary aberration. And I think that we would recover and we will normalize and we will go on to the bread and butter issues, which are what should be on the national agenda.
Mr. Sikandar Bakht, will you be in power in 1993?
I really wanted to...
But in a word?
In a word, no, I don't. I am a pessimist as things are. I'm not really very happy. And I wouldn't like to be daydreaming at all. मैं उम्मीद की एक शेर उर्दू में सुना दूं, पता नहीं आपके पैनल में मुनासिब है या नहीं, कि बाज़ औक़ात उम्मीद ज़िंदगी का बाइस बन जाती है, लेकिन उम्मीद न हो तो क्या होता है. बहुत अच्छा शेर है. हज़ार काफ़िले ज़िंदगी की तीरा शबी, वो रोशनी सी उफ़क़ के करीब क्या कहना. तो चंद्रशेखर साहब तो वो रोशनी देख रहे हैं, मैं अभी देख नहीं पा रहा हूँ.
If hopes are dupes, fears may be liars.
On that note, gentlemen, I'm afraid we've run out of time. Mr. Sikandar Bakht, Mr. Madhura Sindhya, Mr. Fernandez, Mr. Chandrashekhar, thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you, Karan.
And that brings this special edition of Eyewitness to an end. But since it's also the start of a new year, let's leave the last word to perhaps the greatest Indian alive today, Mother Teresa. Here is an excerpt from her prayer for 1993, read at a peace rally at Rajghat. Goodbye and Happy New Year.
So let us pray to Almighty God to give us that grace that we may be able to love one another as God loves each one of us. And the beginning of love is always forgive. Forgive. The fruit of forgiveness is unity and love. Therefore, in these times where we, our people, are suffering, let us forgive each other. Let us come and love one another as God loves each one of us.